What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Game Junction Podcast. We are here for episode 71 with quite a bit of news this week. How's it going, everyone?
Good.
I'm good, man.
I'm exciting stuff this week.
Yeah, a lot going on, a lot happening in the gaming world. Pretty crazy. I couldn't even keep up with it. So when I saw something, I tried to add it right into the notes, but there was more stuff that happened today, and it just does not stop. And it's like I was considering, I threw some other stuff in there for a couple like movie things to hit some other pop culture stuff for now. And dude, there's too much gaming news that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I threw some stuff in there, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know. So
it's been a big week.
Bit.
Been a really big week.
Yeah,
really.
We always say like, oh, maybe it's gonna slow down. Maybe this week's gonna be more relaxed. Nope.
Never.
There's always some craziness happening. It's pretty
Just gonna ramp up.
I mean, we're complaining, but it's good.
No,
for us, it's good to have these conversations because there's gonna be weeks where we're gonna be like,
Yep.
what are we gonna talk about, guys?
Well, that's what I was looking at, and I'm like, yeah, let's dive into, I guess, some of the smaller news first, and we'll save some of the bigger stuff for last. So, yeah, actually, it's perfect. Go ahead and bring up about the Skull and Bones stuff, because that's like today news I saw.
So essentially, it's the CEOs. So everybody started switching to this $70 price tag, and they're trying to give us the reasoning why. And in a sense, games are getting more expensive to develop, and it's understandable. And games used to cost a lot more in comparison back in the day. But at the same time, the $60 price tag for a new game has been such a staple for like what I feel like 2 decades. We had that price tag, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, well, we're raising it, and everybody was not happy about it. And the CEO of Ubisoft, after Skull and Bones got delayed, how many times? 4?
Oh,
even 5 times.
Yeah, a lot.
It's insane.
Yeah.
And so the beta didn't go too well. From what I'm read online, I didn't play it myself, but the Ubisoft CEO comes up and says, this is justified price tag because our game is a quadruple A game. And I thought it was hilarious. And he's just getting a ton of backlash now because obviously the game doesn't look too great. I'm sure it's fun, but doesn't look like a $70 quadruple A game. And it just tells you, especially with the late comments that we had with Ubisoft saying like get used to not owning your games, but pay us like $70 for, like, yeah, that's not gonna end well for you. So just their PR rate lately has been a mess. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, absolute mess.
Nothing.
Just
everybody's so disappointed with it.
Disappointed. I mean, everybody that's actually played the beta kind of has said the same thing. It's been kind of like a disappointment, pretty much. Compared to what you were expecting to do.
Yeah. I watched. Go ahead, Lay.
I was gonna say, well, this was meant to be, technically Black Flag 2. This was meant to be all Black Flag into this.
Yeah.
And this is what we've got.
And it's so sad because Black Flag gets so much love.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a great game. And then also there is another article that said that Ubisoft basically, and I couldn't find the article to put in the notes, but I read that basically they said after how Assassin's Creed Mirage went, which it didn't, they said we're going back to the roots. This is gonna be, we're gonna put some love into our games again, and then it kind of failed. It didn't really do well, and they said, "Oh, we're switching the way we do games, blah 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 blah." And I'm so skeptical at this point with Ubisoft that I'm just like, I'm not even gonna try to hype myself up for the games. I'm obviously gonna follow news and everything, but I'm not gonna have this mentality that I used to before, where it's like, "Oh my god, I'm super excited Ubisoft's releasing a new game." It's just sad where they went, and so many companies that are in that same like range, like EA, Ubisoft, Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, like they've all been like, I feel like they're on the downward spiral now, and they don't know what to do. It's sad. It sucks.
Does feel like that. Yeah, I mean, Ubisoft's been pretty subpar, I feel like, for a while, even with their outputtings. Like, for instance, they did the stupid tower system for like every game for a long time. Unlock the tower and you get more of the map, like for every game release. And it's like, it was a cool concept at first. I know, like with Far Cry 3, I think that that's a god tier game. It's in my top 10 of all time. But I think it's the first game to do it, right? It's the first game I remember doing it.
Well, no, you had Assassin's Creed from the first game. You had that, climbing onto climbing somewhere high up and doing it. But it was the first time that there was like a first-person game. There was like a action RPG that did these like side things really well.
Yeah.
Right? Like the main story of Far Cry 3 was incredible. The pacing was good. You had these two villains that were incredible. But I feel like where it shined is like the actual gameplay at the time was super innovative. Like it was something different. And that's why everybody liked it. And then they started copy pasting it for the next 5 games, and then they wonder like why nobody gives a shit. Like you did the same thing for 5 games. It's, consumers are going to catch up onto it.
More than that, because there was something I played, Assassin's Creed, which I personally loved, but most people hate. I don't know what it was. For some reason, I got into Valhalla. But it had the same sort of system, just done differently, but it was the same thing. Unlock more of the map.
Yeah.
They've just been doing it. I feel like it's been a copy paste formula for kind of everything. Look at Skull and Bones is supposed to be this, massive game, and it was announced so long ago. It's just like a big, and nobody cares. Nobody cares about the game.
Yeah, I feel like the last delay that happened really killed the hype for a lot of people. Because like you would think that some of the studios had a lot of trouble with COVID and work from home changed the dynamic, and like they had all of these valid like reasons, right? But then at some point it's like, how much are you gonna drag it out, and then after all that you're gonna bring a subpar product. But yeah,
after a while you start getting all these delays. You start being like, this feels like there's a troubled development, and you're probably gonna get a lackluster game.
100%.
Well, it was meant to come out a year ago. It got delayed a year, didn't it? It was this time last year it was meant to come out, wasn't it? Feb or something?
Yeah, there was a release date sometime last year, for sure.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, and then it got, I want to say, 2020 was the one before that. Is that right? There might have been a 2021 date too. But the game was announced. God, I don't have it pulled up when it was announced exactly, but it was a while ago.
The funny thing is, I was saying to a mate the other day, like, we saw the demo and all of this when we went to E3 in 2018. It was like, Skull and Bones is coming. And we're like, oh, this is really exciting. 5, 6 years later.
Yeah, so I did pull it up. It was announced back in 2017 with an original 2018 release date.
Yeah, there you go.
Is that like, what, 6 years delayed at this point?
That's crazy.
Does not bode well.
So that almost looks like they had a plan to release a game, and they basically scrapped everything and started from scratch. That's literally what it feels like. It's crazy.
Yeah, that is what it feels like. I agree. It's craziness.
And like, as I was saying to you guys before, I'm like, this game will probably just push everyone to go straight back to Sea of Thieves.
Yeah,
Sea of Thieves is doing well.
Yeah.
Simplified version, but it gives you exactly what you want, out of a pirate game, pretty much.
100%.
Yep. Yeah, it's gotten a lot of improvements. Me and Mark, we played it around the time it came out, right? I want to say it was.
It would have been a few years after.
Oh, was it? Okay.
When I first played it was like 2021, so it had been out for a few years.
I played it when it first came out. There just wasn't like, a lot of content, but Krakens weren't there. There is now.
Yeah,
there is now. I was actually me and my mate did a binge sesh a couple of months ago. So let's go back into this world and see what it's like.
I love it. Yeah, it's fun. I was looking at a little discourse on here, and I see a lot of that. A lot of going back to Sea of Thieves, and yeah, I mean it's a bummer, but we'll move on from that. So on top of that, we got some pretty crazy numbers. Palworld developers reveal staggering 478,000 monthly server costs. What? I mean, what is that? That's some crazy stuff. Now, of course, they're raking in wild money. I know they hit another milestone that apparently I didn't put in here, but the copies sold. Now we don't have Game Pass numbers. Sold are just insane.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a lot of server costs.
I guess you have to guess maybe they didn't plan for this many people, so the original budget for the server costs kind of exploded. I don't know a whole lot about game development. Maybe the game wasn't properly optimized, but they're like, based off the amount of people we're expecting to play, it's not going to be an issue. But the game blew up, and then now server costs blew up with it.
Next minute, you have the biggest Pokemon game right there.
Yeah.
After Pokemon Go.
Yeah.
I say more power to them. Like anything that starts getting these freaking lazy old school developers, and that comes back to the story of Ubisoft. Like they're getting so complacent with how they do things that there's gonna be a smallish player. They're gonna come in, make a game in 2 years, and blow you out of the water, right? Like Pokemon is. Go ahead.
I was gonna say now a lot of these studios, you start small, you make a game that gets popular, and you kind of get bigger, and you start making better games and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, I agree with that.
If you're not willing to adapt, eventually the market's gonna spit you up and chew you out, and you're just gonna be irrelevant, or you're just your studio's gonna get shut down.
Yep.
Well, they're not only with the challenge of trying to accommodate with everyone who's playing the game right now. The studio will now have an even bigger hill when they eventually go make Palworld 2.
Will we get Palworld 2 though? Because we're still in early. I feel like it could be a Minecraft type deal where we just like never get a sequel.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Minecraft 2. Where's that?
Yeah,
that's your it's Minecraft Bedrock essentially.
Yeah.
I guess I'll just settle for the movie.
Well, I just hope it doesn't take them 2 years to put in one new enemy type. That would be extremely disappointing.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever get a Minecraft 2, but it's just me personally. So yeah, on top of that, we've also got, what else do we got? We got some pretty crazy stuff. So we got 5 Resident Evil games are in development right now. And that is official news, including
4 of them are remakes.
Code Veronica is for sure coming, a remake on that, 100%. That's been asked for ages. I think that's the next one as far as remake goes. Before I hope that 5 and 6 are among those, because most will say no, but I say yes, give me the remake formula on them, because they sucked. They were so bad. Like, I would love to see, the story was there, but the games were bad. So I would love to see like a new take on this, like the Final Fantasy stuff, where it's like a legitimate new take. I mean, they're
We'll see how it goes.
Part of the mainline game, so I think they deserve it, as much as the others. And I don't know.
Guarantees you got 5 more years of Resident Evil games kind of lined up already.
Yeah, all remakes.
But that's the thing, like, how genuine is that development? Because they see a trend, right? They see, okay, people are gonna buy it if we make it, and then the actual need to do it well, kind of, the bar gets lower. And if you guys catch my drift, like, they don't have to prove anything, right? They have a concept that fans love, but then you're kind of, I don't know. It's such a slippery slope when it comes to remakes, and we talk about it all the time. But I just wish some of these big studios could like get a kick in the butt so they can like start making great games that are actually new.
Just making stuff to get a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean
that's it.
That's all it is.
It's a business at the end of the day, so they don't care. I mean,
of course. I mean, and here's the thing: like, if they had like the CD Projekt Red did it well, because what they did is they hired a group of developers to remake Witcher 1, right? and that's a side project. That's not something that they take the whole team and all the resources to do that, right? um and if they do it well, like they're gonna kind of improve the game or whatever, because people have been asking about it, but it's not their main focus. Like their main focus is Cyberpunk 2. It's a new Witcher game, which is Witcher 4. And like their actual studio is working on these big major projects that are gonna be new stories, and I think that's how they should do it. Obviously, they're in a much better position because Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk have been such huge successes that they probably have the funds to, do all these crazy projects. But still, I think it's a good approach to have. Um, but yeah, regarding Final Fantasy and Resident Evil, I think I, I hope the fans are happy. I just hate seeing gamers be disappointed because they wait so long for like a new entry and then you get a shitty remake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
The remake and remaster stuff is, I think, gotten a little out of hand. I think there's stuff that deserves it, but we're just getting so much of it. Like I've seen it for, like C-level games. Like let me think of what. I don't know, just like weird stuff, like continually getting remasters. Games from the last generation, I think that's ridiculous. Like, yeah, we don't need it, but that's just me personally on that. But I know we also got, I do want to kind of just quickly mention this because it was kind of big general news, but it also, I mean, it does become sort of the, in the gaming space as well, but the Apple Vision Pro released, and obviously that launched with a $3,500 price tag. It is being scalped on eBay. Launched with over 800 apps and games. So a lot came from like iOS that was optimized for it, essentially. But I mean, I think that Apple fans are, kind of rabid. So I'm not surprised. But like if you go on eBay and look, which I did, specifically for this, they're selling for like, I think it was like 6,000 plus or something, which is just crazy to me that people were.
Capitalism, baby.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of isn't crazy, but it is interesting to see sort of what people have thought on it and how it'll implement in the gaming and film, everything space, as far as
it's got the potential to revolutionize how you approach VR gaming. It's kind of the way I looked at it. Because it's kind of, from what I understand, it's kind of like a clear glass with a screen in the front. Like I haven't done a lot of research on it, but from what I've seen, it's like this has the potential to kind of change how you approach VR, and maybe this is the first step in breaking VR into more mainstream than the niche that it is right now.
I agree with that.
100%.
It's crazy that. What? Sorry, Mark. Go ahead.
No, just because hopefully you don't have a black screen, so you're not bumping into stuff anymore.
Well, that's one of the problems. I did put that in the notes, is that people are like wearing it with their Teslas, and people are doing crazy things. So if you just look up, I didn't go on TikTok and look at it on there. I looked at a compilation of people doing insane things with it and just like activities you should not be doing, essentially. And it's been all over like mainstream news. I saw it personally like pop up. It's like a challenge, a TikTok challenge right now with the Apple Vision Pro. It was like a whole challenge. I watched a playlist. So the craziest thing you can do while wearing the Apple Vision.
Rich people problems, am I right?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah,
I can't afford that.
Free advertising for a company that already like skins their customers, basically.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
Well,
pretty much.
I did see one where a guy got pulled over from the cops because he was using it when he was Tesla.
Yeah, that's
like you can't do it.
Yeah, that was a big one that I saw. I'm like, people are idiots, man. People are just stupid.
People still text and drive and stuff like that, so people are gonna be stupid.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. I mean, Mark, you are right though. I think it has the opportunity to sort of change the landscape in like a mainstream capacity. It's crazy that a company that is not even a gaming company is the one doing it the best, which is Meta. Facebook, like they're doing it better than anyone, which is crazy to me. Like they're doing it better than the Steam one, and obviously the PSVR 2 has been very lacking.
I mean, but also you got to consider, you know, when did Valve Index come out? That's been
A long time ago at this
years,
point.
right? So maybe Valve took all this time.
I think that's what I
to-
meant. I'm sorry, the Valve, not the Steam.
That initial development cost. But I mean, Valve is trying to make something that's also somewhat affordable that people can buy. Where something like, Meta or Apple, they have a lot of investment. These are really big companies that can put a lot of money at something that's very niche. And so it's might be expensive now, but down the road that tech's going to get cheaper. It's already developed. The development's kind of already there, and it helps kind of push the market
Oh yeah,
forward
for
in different
sure.
ways.
And people don't understand one thing about tech in general. It's like, oh, it's $3,500 for Division Pro or whatever. But that's early adopters, and it's always
Yeah.
been like that, right?
You
Like
have to
when a product
recoup
like that
your
comes out,
development cost.
100%. And you know, rich people are always gonna adopt a new technology, and like stupid shit that they do is they drive their Teslas, because they don't care. They can afford to get a ticket for something stupid like that. They don't care. And that's always going to be like that. Always rich people are going to adopt it, and then eventually the little guy can afford it in like 10 years from now.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's technology in a bubble. Sure, yeah, every time like all this new tech, and even in gaming, it's very expensive, but eventually it kind of trickles down, and you can kind of afford, maybe not the top end, but high end good enough stuff to kind of do what you're doing.
Yep.
Still pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the truth with that. So we'll see what happens with it. Looks like we lost Lee. But we'll see what happens. I think it's interesting to keep an eye on, but in general, I don't think it's massive with gaming right now. Obviously, we'll probably get like a Model 2 where it's improved, but it is kind of. I think one of the cool features is that full screen gaming where it's like a 90 screen projection, and they have those glasses for that now, that are pretty cool. So I think it's interesting, but yeah. So besides that, what we got next? You had a few things that you wanted to mention through Kurgle
Oh,
before.
well, the big one. Do we want to talk about the big one, or we don't want to talk about the big one yet?
I say we
Sure.
save the. Well, whatever. Yeah, we
Yeah,
can go.
whatever y'all wanna do.
There's a lot. So
I mean, let's go over, the whole strategy with Disney. They bought $1.5 billion stake in Epic Games. And this is interesting because, Epic has their two empires, basically Fortnite and Unreal Engine. And essentially the strategy behind what Disney's doing now is they want to make an expansive universe inside of Fortnite. And this is possible because of their, the change that they made for their creator, like the Fortnite creator or whatever I can't remember the exact name, but you can basically make games with the Fortnite engine inside of Fortnite, right?
yeah.
So they're looking to
Crazy.
essentially make, to expand their franchise through through Fortnite. And I think this is a really smart move because they're probably going to start feeling out and testing um game development. And they already did some of it, right? Like they already have some of their franchises and games being made, but I feel like it's such a big move. Like that's not a small amount of money, and
Oh, I
buying out
know.
a stake in such a huge
Massive.
company that has, the most utilized the gaming development engine, like that's pretty big. Um,
And this
I don't
includes
know.
Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, everything. So this is
Yep.
yeah, this is
Yep.
massive.
Yeah.
Like a big
It
theme
is.
park. It looks like they're making.
I saw that.
Big.
What did you say? Sorry.
It's like a big multiple theme park they're making from the overall photo they showed at the end of the trailer.
Mm.
Like a whole new world they're making.
Whole new world.
No, I didn't mean to do that.
Is this like the start of the new Fortnite expanded universe?
Something like, well,
Yeah.
if you at the end of the trailer it just showed like 5 or 6 different worlds brand new that we're gonna have like Marvel, Pixar, Disneyland, all in it.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting.
I mean,
Seems
I don't.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's crazy. Like I've not been I barely played Fortnite, if I'm being real with you, but I have had the interest of going back and checking it out for a stream or something, because it looks like a pretty polished game now. Like it could be fun. It's not just little kids playing it now. It's obviously big in that market, but a lot of my friends that were not on board with it before, are playing it now and enjoying it. I'm like, it might be worth like checking out, and who knows, maybe I'll enjoy it. But I like the Guitar Hero inside of it, and like all the crazy stuff. Like I'm for sure grabbing that controller to play that, because I think that's dope. I love the Guitar Hero, so I think it's cool.
See, that needs something that a remaster. Yeah, 1, 2, and 3.
It's coming. We're getting it again. It's coming.
Yeah?
Yeah, we got news about 3-4 months ago on it. Talked about it on here. Yeah, it's coming
crazy.
back. An investor meeting, they mentioned the popularity of it a few years ago. I mean, I don't know how it'll do as far as like the thing with Guitar Hero was a lot of the money came from selling the guitars. Like you needed additional equipment to play the game, or you got like the massive full band bundle for like, I forget how much it was when it was new, but it was like $600.
$99.99. I don't know, something like that. It's expensive.
It was a lot, and it goes for a lot now, complete in box, like around the same price or more. So I don't know. Like if you wanted to play the whole deal, like Rock Band when it came out, it was just crazy expensive. But I think a lot of these companies are basing a lot now on several years ago we talked about this, and like who knows how well it would do. People, there might be the nostalgia to go back for it, but I think the nostalgia bubble, popped during COVID, and people got their fix of it then. Because I have a friend that opened a game store just a few years before that, and he was selling out of those. He couldn't keep them in the store. Like he was posting, like looking for more. He was just selling them like crazy. And so I don't know. It could do well, but I agree. I would love to see it on modern platforms and like play it on these new systems and stuff. So
I think if they do a trilogy pack, like a full remaster from the ground up, I think they get a lot of hype into that. Not just Legends of Rock. I mean, like you do the first 3, you get a bit of hype into that.
The problem with a remaster is the licensing for all the music. I don't know that they could get.
Yeah.
They have to repay for all of it if they can even get it all again. So like you can remaster it, but it'll have entirely different music, and people like love 1, 2, or 3 based on the music. Like there wasn't a ton changed. So maybe it could be accomplished, but it would be expensive. So.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like that market's gone. They've just gone to different games, different like subgenres of the essentially it's like a rhythm game.
Yeah.
Yep. So
I know I'm terrible, but I definitely got hooked on the taiko drum game, which is, I don't know, it's a little bit simpler, but I'm terrible at it. But I was terrible at Guitar Hero, so
was I.
hey, taiko's fun, man. I finally got one of the physical drums for the Switch, and you tried to stream it. Did you try to stream it with that? I forget. Like at first,
it was, the problem is the drum itself is really loud.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
Didn't
hard.
work.
But we were thinking about, did any of you ever see the South Park episode that dealt with Guitar Hero?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Oh my
classic.
god, I love that song.
Doing it like not even plugged in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
I
it was
loved
like,
it.
Was it when they broke 1 million? You are a fan.
I love it. Yeah, that was a good episode. It's good stuff. So I think it could do well. But yeah. So what else do we got? We've got big stuff that I think it popped up yesterday with the Knuckles series. That is launching soon, April 26th, as a Paramount Plus exclusive, and it looks good. It looks polished, and it looks pretty much like it has the production of the movies, and Yeah, it looks really good. What do you
I'm
guys
like
think?
Megamind.
I saw your thing on
I look like Megamind. It looks like a giant pile of shit.
I watched I watched the trailer for it. It doesn't look good, but I also didn't like the other one. There was a series too, right? For that, there's a
Yeah, they're launching a new movie and a series.
I was
yeah, I don't-
surprised with Knuckles that it only has like 6 episodes, I believe, right? It's like a limited series, and
six,
it's only
yeah.
like six.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised by that because of how much success Sonic had in the last couple of years.
I'm not.
And I know it. Really?
No, because I think the budget for it is at a movie level, so the 6 episodes I think is gonna fill out whatever story they want to tell there. Like I don't even know that this would get a season 2. Like they might do a shadow
Well, if it's a
series or
limited, yeah, I was gonna say because it's a limited series. When they say a limited series, it's literally like one season or like a
yeah.
a couple episode story, which I was kind of disappointed by. Not to say that I'm like this big huge Sonic fan, but my son loves it, and I always played Sonic when I was a kid, so I would definitely watch it. But it'd be cool to have um something that's on that level, but it kind of goes on a little further or longer, I guess. Um,
Well, I
that'd be
think the
cool to
one
see.
thing is we don't have an episode length or anything, so we don't know how long. I mean, like this could be 45 minutes, an hour episodes, and like that's 6 hours of story right there. I feel like you could be running into putting too much filler in there, but I love Sonic, so I'm on board. Gotta get fast.
Yeah.
I'm on board. I think it looks great though. All the images look really good. Poster looks good. There's some hidden things I saw in the poster that I don't have pulled up, and I did not put the poster in the notes. I put some other images, so I forget what it was, but it looks really cool. So I'm on board.
Yeah,
I'm
for sure.
curious
It
to
looks.
know.
look-
I'm curious to know, like, when you get to the end of the show, how much is going to lead into Sonic 3?
It's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I was kind of wondering like what I was kind of wondering the same thing, what it's going to fill out for the story, and like
You
if
guys
it
think they thought about it that far? Because
They
the
had
cast,
to.
Well,
because
the-
the cast for Sonic 3 just came up, no?
Yes.
yeah, I did. Yeah.
So
mean,
this
The only
must have been in
person-
like production for what, 2-3 years at least.
This was announced back in Feb 2022.
About
Okay.
2 years. I mean, it makes sense. It's probably. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know personally. I don't know if it would be a direct like you have to watch it into Sonic 3, but at the very least, it's gonna
Yeah.
have some kind of tie-in, if not like some backstory, like you understand a few things, you're just going to do some more world building or something like that. But I would assume it's gonna have some amount of tie-in.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm sure they thought about it
Yeah.
tying in, but I'm wondering if that gave them enough time to think about that far ahead. But then again, maybe they planned Sonic 3 all along and they just wanted to get Knuckles as like a little push into the whole hype of the new series of movies, you
Feel
know.
into
So
it.
Everything
Yeah.
blew up. Oh, what'd you say?
I was gonna say, I was just reading just here. The series will include Easter eggs to set up the events and narrative to Sonic 3.
Oh.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, that kind of makes sense. This probably was all in the works of something we wanted to do, but we have to make sure, the first movie was going to take off, and the second movie, there's enough popularity to
Yeah, for
warrant,
sure.
extra movies and like spin-off series and stuff.
100%.
What I'm a little
An
surprised
Easter
by.
egg.
Oh, go ahead, Lee.
I was gonna say, and an Easter egg could just be something as simple as, "Oh my God, something's coming!"
Yeah.
Like
Could be
that's
really
it.
small.
I mean, so following the sort of projection of the games that they've covered, obviously they're covering all the early games. There was a game, I don't know if you guys have played it. This is going a little deeper on the Sonic level, but there's a game called Knuckles Chaotix, and it's set right after Sonic. I forget if it's in between 2 and 3 or if it's set after 3. I think it's set after 3. So I was a little surprised that this story is not going to cover that, because, I mean, based on the images, this has nothing. Knuckles Chaotix is basically Sonic with a band of 4 characters, and you like the characters are on the screen the whole time. So you're playing that sort of banding game where you've got multiple characters you're controlling, but they're all on the screen. You run through the levels the whole time. So that was a sort of like the difference with that game. It was on the Sega 32X for the Genesis, so like the attachment. So it was, if you looked at like some of the posts, like people were like, no Knuckles Chaotix, like not covering that, but like you would think with the progression of the story that's what it would fill, but it's not, like, clearly. So I was very shocked by that. But yeah, I wonder why they didn't pick. I wonder, well, I guess it depends on who they're introducing in 3 and like how that's going to work. But I'm surprised it was Knuckles that they went with for a series. Like, why not somebody that wasn't in 2, or like even Tails? I feel like would have been. I don't know. I'm surprised it wasn't somebody else or something. But
Not a Sonic genius, but Tails just always felt like the sidekick to Sonic. I don't. To me, it makes sense that Knuckles gets his own thing.
yeah, I mean, I'm excited.
But I'm not a big Sonic fan, or I don't have a whole lot of knowledge. That's really peripheral, just looking at it from the outside in.
Well, they still haven't announced who I think is voicing Shadow. I think still haven't.
They haven't?
Announced. No, I think
I thought it
everyone else
was
has been announced except for Shadow.
Interesting. Oh, I thought he
Trying to
did.
keep it secret.
Yeah, we mentioned it last podcast.
Yeah, that's right. We were
Yeah, we
trying to
did.
figure it out. Yeah, we were trying to figure it out. So, yeah, it looks cool. I'm excited. I'm sure there'll be, some other things released before April to hype it up. So I'm sure that we'll see more. But we also got Persona 3 Reload, the fastest selling Persona ever in the series. Sold 1 million plus in the first week. Again, this is not including Game Pass. This is just sales. So that's crazy, and it's a remake. So interesting stuff. I mean, Persona is just gotten bigger and bigger. That's not just the biggest selling Persona game, but also like the main series SMT. It's big. It's sold more than any of those in the first week as well. So
Impressive.
I played it, so I could talk about it a little bit. It's good. It's really good. I feel like it was like the Persona that was the easiest to just jump into. If you played 4 or you played 5, there's a little bit of time. It takes like an hour to just get into the game, like start actually playing. They're so story heavy.
That's why I would assume why you play. I've only ever played 4, and it was like 2015 since I last played it. But it was an enjoyable game. I had no problem getting into the game, playing it. But if I'm gonna play a JRPG, I'm expecting a heavy story-based game.
Yeah. I mean, that's good news for Persona and fans, because like that just means we're going to continue to get more stuff in the series. But yeah, I played roughly like an hour and a half of it. Really good, a lot of fun. I played the original one back in the day too, and Persona 3 on the PS portable. I played on the PSP too, and yeah, they did a good job with it. Visually, it looks really good. Same game, they did definitely a lot of work to the game. I think that this is a really good. All the Persona games are their own story essentially, and they sort of interlink together, but like you don't have to have ever played any of the ones before it. And so you can jump into this. This is a really good starting point, I think, for the series. Like if you didn't play 5, which was pretty massive in itself, just didn't sell as quick as this game. And I think overall, I don't know that it'll be quite as big as 5, because 5 is so big that it got 2 spinoffs. Got Tactica, and it got whatever that warrior style, Strikers, Persona 5 Strikers. So like that was big enough to warrant all these spin-off games.
I guess it just showed there's a lot of nostalgia for Persona 3. People want to go back and replay it.
Yeah. So I mean, good stuff. Good for the series. Good for fans. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I'm sure I'll play a little more, but yeah, I guess this one we'll mention pretty quickly because I don't think anybody's into fighting games like that. But Evo announced their lineup. We've got Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Guilty Gear Strive, Grand Blue, not wearing my glasses, Grand Blue, Fantasy Warriors, I think it's called. We also got the Under Night Rebirth, which I'm not sure what that one is. Mortal Kombat 1, King of Fighters 15, and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So got a retro one in there. Yeah, that's cool stuff. I've always wanted to go to one of those events. I think it's insane to watch people play fighting games like that on that high level. Like it's really cool. I like fighting games. Insane to watch people, but play fighting games I can't like play that on that sort of level. So
yeah, too much pressure for you.
Too much everything for me there. Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the next Dragon Ball Z Budokai. No, Sparkling Zero. That's my next fighting game.
Yeah, looks good. I'm excited for that too. Looks really good. And then I guess we can go ahead and dive into, start talking about some of the Xbox stuff because that's been pretty crazy this week. So
and their new show's been shit too.
Their new show?
Halo.
Oh, Halo. Oh, yeah.
It got 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Did it?
Yep.
Is that the audience or the critic score?
I think it's the critic score.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
And the worst thing, I was going to say this in a mini rant. It's like, don't take your helmet off. That 2 seconds into the show, he doesn't have his helmet on.
Yeah.
The first 2 seconds of the brand new season, I'm like,
I mean, that makes sense. It got the first season or whatever it was got a 66 audience rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So I didn't hear anything good about it. Like fans of Halo were not they didn't like it.
No,
but
that show was bad.
I didn't bother to watch it. I heard a bunch of bad reviews. I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna waste my time.
I mean, then also the main actor, the Pablo, that guy that's Master Chief, he's like, if you guys want the classic Halo experience or like the classic Halo game, you're not gonna find that here. That's not what we were trying to do. And I thought about it and I was like, well, yeah, I guess you're gonna get bad scores. Like
I was like, that's your core audience. Like if it's not what I want, I'm not gonna watch it. So you just admitted you made a game that's not for the fans. So obviously the fans aren't gonna watch it. So
yep, exactly.
Don't call it Halo. Call it a Space Adventure of David. Anything else?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
like
the last 2 Halo games have sold the worst in the series. Like Infinite was on Game Pass, so it did a little better with players in the beginning, but people dropped off that so quick. They were not with it. And I didn't like it. I know it's gotten better, but that's like the thing with all these games now. It gets better later, but it launched with terrible. It like no content, like just super boring. The story, single player story was really, really boring and generic and didn't feel like Halo.
That was my first Halo game, by the way. I'm ashamed to say.
Oh.
You gotta play.
Really?
You gotta play 2 and 3.
Man. You poor man.
I don't know. Maybe you need to back off the Halo games for a year or two.
Well, I want to get the Master Chief collection.
Oh yeah, worth it
on Steam.
Worth it.
Yeah, that's worth it.
Do it.
Definitely want to do that at some point soon.
You just need to play the first 3 games. That's it. Don't play anything else.
That's what I heard.
Well, I like ODST.
Reach
I
wasn't too bad.
Yeah, Reach is good. I like Reach too. ODST,
but if you
I
just
think
played
is good.
the first 3 games, you'd be like, I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
It was always like the reason, and it's funny because like so many people played it, and I feel like in the US it's been such a cult like series. It's like such a classic. And then in Serbia, where I grew up, it was either you're a Call of Duty player, a Counter-Strike player, or Medal of Honor player. And then Halo was like it was there because it was there for Windows, but not a lot of people care for it for some reason, which is very interesting because I know people here is like, when they find out I never played a Halo game, it's like, oh my god, you live under a rock.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I did that.
Yeah, no,
I don't
mean,
mind.
It's worth going back, Kurgle, for sure. I think that would be really good to stream. Like people would love that.
Yeah,
Master
you
Chief
definitely wanna
Collection.
check
My
it out.
first time with Halo.
You just have to get used to those old early 2000 game controls.
Literally,
Well,
I played the original Deus Ex with no mods or anything. Trust me, I'll be fine.
Okay.
And
No, I
once
went
you
back
play
and
Deus Ex, like you play any game. It
I
was
went
so
back
bad.
and played the first game. I was like, these gun controls I'm not used to. I don't
Yeah.
think you could sprint in the first game or some of the early games. I'm like, this is weird. Like I'm stuck at this one speed.
Yeah.
It took a while to get used to because I'm just used to more modern controls.
It's like
For
that
sure.
Just
for
the warp
all
everywhere.
like
Yeah.
sort of first person shooters. And I mean, like Combat Evolved launched on PC before it did Xbox, and I
Mhm.
played it there. At what year was that? God, I can't remember. I played it there first. I didn't have an Xbox growing up. I played it at a friend's house. So
Yeah.
all my Halo up until Halo 3, I did get a 360. Was all like at a friend's house. So
Now going back and think, is I know the story was really big, but I think what really helped that game was it's really one of the first early examples of like online multiplayer. It really helped
Yeah.
catapult that game.
Yeah.
Because before then it was, at a maximum 4 friends on a TV, and that was like all you could do. But once the internet kind of got around, and Halo definitely helped
Well,
spring rocket that game's popularity.
oh yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I think was it Forge? I think Forge and Halo 3 also did that was a massive thing too. That you
Yeah.
can make your own maps in the game.
Used to be a really
that was-
innovative
Yeah.
series ahead of like the whole industry, and now it's just kind of become a industry standard, as in we're just gonna rehash the same thing and not be creative.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Halo 4 wasn't. I feel like after Halo 4, it all went to shit. You could tell Halo 4 was very similar to Halo 3, but you could tell
What
all the
didn't
changes would be.
wasn't I don't remember wasn't the original studio only wanted to do the first 3 games, and they're like, we're done, we told our story, and
Bungie?
then Microsoft,
That's it.
yeah,
Yep.
Bungie's like, we told our story, we're gonna do something else, but Microsoft's like, no, we got to keep pumping games out.
Gotta
Yeah,
milk
'cause
them
Bungie wanted to go do-
franchises.
And then it went to who was the developer?
343, I believe.
343, yeah.
Industries,
Just not
Which is
good.
really hit or miss.
which you
with
are
their games.
known. You're known as the studio that killed Halo.
Pretty much. I mean, they had like a 1 or 2 decent games, but nothing that's been consistently good. I think this series just needs to take a break for a few years. Stuttering on my words. If you get the same game year after year after year, eventually you just kind of get bored and kind of sick of it. And it's hard to innovate in a game that you get so often.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's funny.
Ask
to take that, like,
Activision.
wow,
There's a new Call of Duty every year. They're obviously doing something right.
Well, they use
oh, that's true.
at the very least they use 3 different studios, but I don't think it's all that good.
But
Yeah.
the funny thing is, you have this franchise. You're like, it's a massive multiplayer game. That's what really got it to boost and everything. Here's Halo 5 with no multiplayer. Have fun with that.
Yeah, that was a good
Yeah,
decision.
Yeah.
Lee, you're frozen, by the way. So,
But whenever I think about like game development in general, it's like maybe we're fools. Maybe we're like just like a minority that complains about certain things because we feel like they're disconnected. And when I say we, I'm talking about people that are passionate about video games. But maybe the classic like Brad, if your name is Brad, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm
Now
just
you gotta think
trying
of
to
more
find the general name.
attractive male name like Keith.
Whoever is Keith right now in chat, I apologize. That was laying on me. But maybe your average Joe doesn't give a shit. Maybe they like those games. Maybe that's why they kept making those games. But I don't
you're
know.
right.
Because
The average-
when you think about it too, when like Steam reviews, right? If you have negative reviews, you usually get it from people that are passionate about the game. But think about like tens of thousands of millions of players that they couldn't care less, even if they loved the game,
Yeah.
right? Maybe they just like, I don't leave reviews. It's not my thing, right? And maybe they just don't do it. But maybe there's a vast majority of people that enjoy whatever they've been putting out lately. And I always like to take, the reviews with a grain of salt like that and think about people that are not engaged with reviewing and expressing their opinion about something. So,
Yeah, I think that's the biggest audience when it comes to like your Battlefield, your CODs, your FIFAs,
Yep.
your Maddens. That's just your casual. I play 1 or 2 games and that's it.
100%.
exploit me for all your money. I'm playing the games. I have a console, but I'm not really an actual gamer because I don't really play games constantly. I'm not that invested within the actual community itself.
Exactly what I had in mind.
Yep, I agree. So, yeah, interesting stuff. But I mean, going back on the Xbox stuff in general.
Yeah, not to go on a tangent.
I mean, it's okay. That's
Huge
what
left
we
turn.
do.
Let's hit these main news and talk about something else for 25 minutes.
Yeah,
Just a casual day on our podcast.
Dude, that's what we do. But no, I mean, so it kind of started the week. There was something that came out. What was the first thing that came out? First thing, right? I know after the podcast there was something that came out late Sunday, but essentially it kind of started with there's a rumor that Xbox is bringing everything cross-platform. They're going to PlayStation. They're going to Switch. They're bringing the new games, Indiana Jones, all their stuff over. Gears of War was in the news too. They're bringing Gears of War. It started with that, so that's what we had first. Well, what do you guys think about all that? Like with Microsoft doing that?
I was very skeptical of it until Phil Spencer said that, oh, we have our, announcement soon to talk about all the changes we're going to be doing. And it kind of makes sense, right? Like they laid off a bunch of people.
Thousands.
That's like a big one that happened,
Yep.
right? And then came along all these announcements for these video games and all the studios they acquired. So with that being said, you have a massive surge in costs, right? And in the beginning, their strategy was like they've been playing around telling people they're going to make like Call of Duty exclusive and all this bullshit. And they got so much backlash because
Yep.
there's a huge, with games like that, even if majority of the people that are vocal about not liking the game, you have the casuals that are going to play it, and a lot of them they don't even care about PlayStation versus Xbox bullshit.
Yeah.
Like some passionate gamers are loyal to a brand to a fault, right? And they'll follow it even if they do things wrong. But then you have all these people that are just like they just want to play games, and maybe they were outraged when they're like, "Oh, this is one game that I play on my console. And I'm not gonna be able to play it." Like, fuck that. I don't, I'm not gonna deal with that. So I think they probably got a shitload of feedback of people legitimately being pissed to a point where they realized how high the percentage of these games being on PlayStation and how important it is. And they
Yeah.
kind of took a step back and they're like, well, maybe we should engage into this, into this thing of having our games cross platform. I think
Yeah.
that's what happened personally.
I think there's the other aspect where obviously you're trying to cut your costs, but it's also with the backlash, and if you took a wider scope, it's like, well, we have these games on all these consoles. We can also maximize profit while also, we can
getting
cut
positive,
off
and getting positive, feedback from players like, oh, you
like
brought the game that I play back.
like you're not gonna get as much people buying Xboxes to play your game as you think. That's gonna offset the cost. Whereas if you just have it all over the place, you're just gonna make that much more money. I think that after a while has to play a factor in going away from the exclusive.
Yeah, and also like
exclusive.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know this, but consoles are affordable because they sell them at cost or at a loss. People don't consider that, and they always say like, PC gaming is expensive, this and that, and then they go and spend $70 on every new release that comes out, right? And you can do that with PlayStation with PC games, but a lot of times you will have a lot more sales. But on consoles, you can have sales; they're just not as frequent and not as good. So a lot of the times when you're a console player, you're not really paying your way through the actual system you play on. You're paying it through the games and through the subscription that you pay every month.
Yeah.
So I think they're seeing that too, right? Like that's another reason. Why would they sell a console at loss when they can sell a video game 5 times and kind of make up the same margin, right? So much bigger audience. I think it makes sense what they're doing, and I think they will do it.
Yeah.
That good PR, any kind of bad PR. Well, sometimes I guess the idea is any PR is good PR. Sometimes it could be a negative. And if people are going to boycott your game, now it's like, are we going to make the money back? Like could be financially a really bad move.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and then I mean, obviously there was a lot more than just that. So we mentioned the Phil Spencer thing, so that gave some evidence that hey, something is true here because they're going to be talking at the Microsoft. It's not an Xbox. Here's where if you actually dive into it, it's not an Xbox conference. Not conference. What am I trying to say here? Investor meeting. It's not an Xbox. It's a Microsoft investor meeting. So I think that Microsoft and Xbox only makes up for like 1/4 of what Microsoft makes. I looked into it somewhere around there. So I think that they are kind of tired of just a console format. And that obviously they just want Game Pass everywhere. It's available on TVs. It's available on your phone. You can get it on the Asus ROG Ally. You can get it on your Steam Deck if you want to. It's obviously not built in there, but you can play it everywhere essentially. So I think it's hey, we spent all this money acquiring all these studios and we're not making our money back. I think that it has something to do with that. I think that we could be heading in a direction where the Xbox as we know it is not the same. But we also got rumors. I want to say this accurately, but we also got rumors that we are going to be getting another console from Xbox, but they're also going to be doing a handheld. That's essentially a Game Pass machine. So that came out yesterday. And I don't know. I can see Xbox going in the handheld market. We've talked about it a few times how crazy handhelds are right now. But I don't know. We also got a GameStop, and they took it down, but they tweeted it out that there is a demo day, and on their flyer it says Microsoft Game Pass, not Xbox Game Pass. It's always been branded, and they immediately took it down. And then tweeted out, "Hey, it was an accident. We made this internally. This is not, from Xbox. We made it ourselves, and it was a decision that our internal team made."
That's not a decision they made. That was intentional. I don't buy these leaks. All these game leaks or any kind of leak of anything, like that's all 99% of the time it's intentional to build interest or to get people talking about it before they're actually going to announce something.
Any PR is good PR. We just talked about it. There's a reason why they do it. It's almost never an accident.
No, that's a wholly intentional. The amount of people something like that would have to go through, and why would you just make something and then publish it? Like, doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so weird because they acquired so many studios and spent so much money, and we've seen like little come out. Like, obviously, Starfield was far, far, far into development way before Xbox acquired them. Who knows? The same could be, said about Elder Scrolls 6. Like, maybe it was already started. Like, I don't think we've actually seen anything come out of those acquisitions yet, where Xbox bought them. Like, this is a Xbox release. I don't think we've gotten anything that wasn't already in development because of the length of development right now. Like, I don't know that. Maybe, but nothing that I know of for sure, and that any of us knows of for sure. But I don't know. Starfield was one of them brought up to be brought over to everything else. Indiana Jones. What else? Gears of War.
I'd say Indiana Jones and Sea of Thieves are the only two for me that I was like, yes, I'll take that. I'll take that beyond PlayStation.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I'm for it. I don't necessarily want to see them leave the console market, but they've sold the most units they've ever sold in Japan with the Series X. I know that, which was, if you know anything about the Japanese gaming culture, we talked about a little bit. They're not really in the console space as much. They've got very little room, so that's why handhelds do so good there. So they could be looking at. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say, I know from personal experience, the Microsoft or the Xbox market, gaming market might as well be non-existent in that country.
Yeah.
It's either Nintendo or it's gonna be PlayStation, one of the two.
Yep.
But also you gotta, that's a good point that you said that they changed it from Xbox Game Pass to Microsoft Game Pass. There's a lot of things that is happening right now with AI that's gonna make PC gaming more affordable. And I'm doing a video on it actually for AMD, and
Ooh.
they're basically looking like the companies are now fighting over the budget consumers, right? There was this huge boom with, AI and servers and all these things happening. And now they're actually bringing budget CPUs that are going to allow you to not have to buy a graphics card. So essentially, what
Yeah.
a console has is one chip that has both the graphics processing unit and the logic processing unit, which is the CPU, in one pack, right? But most people that are on PC that want to play high end stuff, they have a graphics card and a processor. And so I think, in a sense, they're not necessarily looking to get out of the console market, but they're looking to gather all of this other area of gamers,
Yep.
into this whole umbrella. And on top of that, as you said, you have the mobile stuff, right? Like people, essentially like streaming their games on mobile, and that's going to be a huge market share too. So I think they probably had certain things that they didn't think all the way through, in a sense of like, yeah, like we're not directly competing with PlayStation, blah blah blah. They usually have a bigger um reach and bigger market share than us, but this just makes sense for us to do, and I think that's where they landed, honestly, with with all the changes, and probably with the with the changes to how the Game Pass is going to be promoted and displayed.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I want to add on to what I said earlier. The handheld would also be a dockable console, so you'd have a dock with it. And this
Okay.
came from Middle Age Game Guy. This is his handle on Twitter of the XNC podcast. So
Nice.
that is the person that it came from. But I'm just like scrolling through. There's so much. Like they're talking about some of the other stuff, and then like what could come to Switch and Switch 2. Obviously, that supposedly the console will be able to handle it, and it'll have DLSS. So if that's the case, like it will open up the doors for a lot of other stuff to be coming to Switch. Now it'll be easier to port, multi-platform releases, like in general, like with Ubisoft and all these other companies. So I don't know, man. I feel like Sea of Thieves would do well, like on Switch. A game like that, I feel like could
Oh,
do very, very well. So they
on
see that,
Switch,
yeah.
that would just.
Yeah, and I think PlayStation 2, but I think especially that's like a Switch type game to me. Like that is a game that fits Switch to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it also is saying that we are going to get another standard console. So I don't know. I didn't see that part happening. And obviously with the news earlier in the week, that's not what everybody thought. They thought, okay, they're essentially dropping the consoles, and it would make sense because they also did the huge price slashes a few months ago. And like you can still at almost every retailer get like a Series X for $350 and get a, or not Series, did I say Series S? Series X for like $350 and Series S for whatever 250, 200, something like that. So you can get the consoles like cheap, and them slashing the prices that much is like, I don't know. I don't know. I think they obviously don't care about physical games anymore. I think that's out of the question for them to care about that.
Get used to not owning your games, as the brilliant
Mm,
people of Ubisoft said.
Nah, I will own my
yeah.
games. Where there's a will, there's a way.
I mean, you could, GOG, like DRM
Yar.
free stuff. Like there's always gonna be a market for people that care. But as time goes on, less and less people are going to care because there's obviously the market is not big for people that care right now. It's like a 80-20 split with digital and physical. It just
I
continues
don't
to
know.
go up. So
That does bring an interesting discussion because there's something else going on that's it's not game related, but it's has to deal with the with Funimation and
yes,
Crunchyroll,
thank you for bringing that
where
up. I
Yeah.
forgot.
if you have
Yeah.
if you
I
bought
like
anything
Funimation.
digitally on Funimation, Crunchyroll that acquired them is not going to honor that. You bought this digital show, well, you're just at it. You're just SOL. You're out of luck. They're not going to do anything about it. So you're just out whatever money you spent on a show.
Mm,
I think something like
gone.
that would bring around the discussion of is there a problem if this is digitally only and I don't physically at least have it on my hard drive that if something happens, they're just going to take it away and I'm just going to be out a bunch of money? I think that's the only way to potentially get some change, at least as far as whether you physically own it because you bought the money for it or not.
Yep. And then obviously, I mean, like a lot of that was, people that bought physicals that got like the digital code with it, that they've always done for years and years and years now at this point, 10 years or so.
Yeah,
it's crazy, man. It's just insane. And you know who's behind all that, right? Sony.
Who? Oh.
Sony. Yep. It's all Sony. So
yeah, Sony and Microsoft are all part of the same thing. They want the same thing.
Yep. I agree with that. And I considered doing a video on that, but I am going to do another physical media video, so I think I'll just incorporate that into it. But you don't own your digital content, period. Like, people think that they do, but you just don't own any of it. Like, if it's not DRM free and it's not, you just don't. There's 90% of it you don't own.
You're just borrowing it.
Yeah, you're renting it.
Yeah,
Just borrowing.
It's a rental.
That's
It's a long term. Sometimes not even long term, but it's a long term rental.
That's why I'm so hesitant, like renting or buying movies on like Amazon Prime or anything like that.
Won't
It
do it.
doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I do it
I
because
only
there's
click the rent.
obviously no other way to get it. There is, but I'm trying to be a good consumer.
no.
But if I want to watch it on TV with the kids or whatever, and we just absolutely can't find it anywhere else, I'm like, fine,
Yeah.
I'll shell out. And it's not even a crazy amount of money, and that's how they get you at first. Like that's how they
Yeah.
got us with subscriptions, right? And I remember like 2, 3, 4 years ago, I could buy a movie on Amazon Prime for like $3. Now it's
Not
like
anymore.
I looked at a movie, it was like $10.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, like I'm fine buying a license from you, that you resold 1,000,000 times for $3. Fine. Like you can make that money on me. But if you're gonna ask me for, $10, I'm good. Like that's
Yeah,
just
I,
not worth it.
it's not.
Nope.
I mean, it's crazy. Like, I was looking the other day, and I had it on DVD. I think I talked about it with you guys on here, but I sold off like my movie collection or whatever. And like I had,
Oh, you said
all
that.
the general stuff, right? But also a lot of the weird stuff and like boutique releases that are new all the way up until 2020. I was, buying stuff from like Red Art Media and Scream Factory and like the weird stuff. So we were looking for Matilda and the original. My daughter wanted to see it. So we were looking it up because she watched the new one on Netflix. And it was on any streaming service. And the rental for, this is an old movie, the rental we found for it was $8. This movie is from the 90s.
Yeah.
Nah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, hey,
So-
maybe there's the only way to address this issue is, I don't know, call your local congressman or something like that.
Yo,
Or if
my
you-
movies are too much, bro.
Or else you're just gonna get taken advantage of at the end.
But they
end
don't.
of the
But
day.
they don't.
They don't
that's the
care
thing,
about
they don't-
media.
They don't care. Like
Yeah.
they get lobbied. They get money
Mm-hmm.
continuously from these corporations to make the laws the way they are. And now we're getting into politics, and I'm gonna go on a
Oh.
rant. But
So you're saying
Oh,
the
yeah.
only
No, but-
the only answer is to
Yeah.
sail the high
Yeah.
seas at that point.
my advice would
Yeah.
be like if you ever owned anything, like if you bought a license, let's say on Amazon Prime, Netflix, whatever the fuck, right? If you bought any of that, I feel like morally you shouldn't feel bad at all to go to one of these Skull and Bones websites and get it and own it locally. Like
Wasn't there a discussion about that
Yeah.
a while ago where it's like if I have something like I went and bought a movie, is it technically illegal if I have a digital
It's not.
version
It's still
regardless
not.
of how I got that?
it's still not legal.
I mean,
But
like,
that's the thing, and that's why, like, for example,
kind
Nintendo,
of a
right?
gray area.
I don't think it's a
it's
gray
all-
area. I
it
think it's
is
still,
a gray area, but I don't think it's
Well, as
necessarily
far as
bad.
U.S. legality goes, it's
Yeah.
kind of
It
hit or
is.
miss, but
It is. Like, I've got
real-
like- oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Lee.
I was gonna say real quick, boys. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to head off.
All right.
And looks like this is getting heated. So I look forward to listening to the playback on this. But you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you next week.
All right.
sounds good, Lay.
See you later.
see you,
Hey,
man.
boys.
Yeah, what was I saying? Shoot, I forget. What the heck was I saying? I don't remember. Anyway,
It
yeah, I
just
mean, like,
defused the whole
so,
conversation.
yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, my retro stuff, I've got all filled up with on EverDrives, right? A lot of it, like, I do own, but like things that are not being sold, like for instance, Nintendo. If you aren't giving me the option to buy this from you now, since there's no virtual console, for instance, like they just got their they've got their service, Nintendo Switch Online. If it's not on there, you're screwed. But if you don't give me the option, like what other option is there if I want to play the game? So I'm gonna throw it on
Yeah,
my
you're shit out
EverDrive
of
or
luck.
emulate it. You know?
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, and I'm saying like I'm pretty sure that if they wanted to, and if you didn't have VPNs, they could like give you shit for just trying to re-own your content. And I agree that it shouldn't be that way. Like you should be able to have an alternative, right?
So to be
Like,
fair, the companies usually go after the host site. It's really not worth their time to go after the individual. It's when
well,
they
it's
go after it, they go after the site itself that's hosting all this,
no,
illegal
no, no. I
content.
know, no, I know that it's a gray area in general, right? For any of the content that you would download
Yeah.
somewhere like that, but um, I feel like there should be these corporations should be held accountable in a way that they should give you an alternative,
They
right? Like
should, yeah.
Yeah.
like you sure remove it from whatever, like your servers, but have like a website where I can download the file and I'll figure out you know, some type of way to access that content, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be through official channels, but if you're already going to take away the actual content itself from the device you put it on, give me an alternative. Like I wouldn't be mad at them if they said like, look, we can't afford to like have these servers up, right? But you can go ahead and download this file if you own it, right? And there's special access or some shit. I don't know. But I think that would be cool. But they're not gonna do it because they
No.
don't want to bother. They don't care about the consumer, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, because it's a game
That's
that
the
had
bottom
long since
line.
made its money. That if we offered it to you, you would buy it in a legal way, but we just don't want to offer it to you. But
Yes.
when you get it
Exactly.
illegally, now we're gonna complain. But it's
Yep.
like you left me no other option. It's either I buy a used copy, which you're not gonna profit off anyways. It's gonna cost me a few $100s, or I find another way to get it to play it, or I wait maybe 20 years and you might bring it back around at one point. Like it's really frustrating.
It really is.
100%.
Nintendo's
I
the
mean,
worst with it too, I think.
Yeah.
oh yeah. Well, did you guys see the news of the guy that the guy that went to jail over?
Yeah, Gary Bowser.
Yeah. So he has actually a GoFundMe now because they're milking him dry. They're milking that man dry. He has like a bunch of surgeries he needs to get done because of the time he spent in prison, and it's like they literally couldn't like. Did you seriously have to prosecute that man to a point where like
No, they didn't.
his life is?
He was an example. They were setting an example. That's what
But
they were
they're
I'm
trying
not
to do.
because
sure.
people are still going to do the same thing. It's the whole Streisand effect. If you do that, it just makes people want to spite you even more. It doesn't do
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I agree.
Like there was no reason for. I mean, it just blows my mind that that's still like a thing,
That's a whole
and they
deeper
still
discussion we could
have.
go into.
Yeah, that's why I said like we get into
Yeah.
politics, and that's a whole other thing. But what
Well,
other
that's what
news
it
we have?
all
Let's talk
is.
about something happy.
Something that's not
Well,
like uber depressing.
Yeah.
we've also got so this was released today. I don't have notes pulled up, so I just some of the things I saw from today. We got apparently some information on the PS6, and the information is that it is going to be more powerful than the Xbox Series or the next Xbox this go around. And that's
Oh,
essentially the
okay.
news. That's 4 hours ago. I mean, and I did see it. To be fair, I did see it even last night on another source. So there's some sources for it, and this is on a relatively big website. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't But I think that the whole point was supposed to be that the PS5 is obviously not quite as powerful as the Series X this go around.
Hmm.
So they're trying to beef up the
negligible.
hardware. It's small. It's barely a difference, but it is there, and I think that's
I
the
just got
fanboyism.
We just got the PS5. What in 22? It's only been like 4 years. It's not been out
4
that long.
years. And I think we're
It's
getting
already been
we're getting the
4.
pro. We're getting the pro.
Yeah, we're
soon,
at
too.
that midlife upgrade. We're still like another 4 or 5 years out from that whatever the PS6 is going to be.
This
From
said,
realistically coming around.
yeah, this said that it was actually going to have an 8-year lifespan, which would be, I think,
Yeah, it
just
makes
a
sense.
year. Yeah, a year more than the PS4 as far as before the upgrade. So it makes sense. That's 6 is about the average, and going all the way back. So yeah, that makes sense to me. I think that
Yeah, but if you're
PS5
doing
Pro,
like
they're going to be good.
if you're doing the midlife upgrade, you can usually use that to kind of extend the overall
Always.
life of this version of the console.
Yep, I agree with that. And I think that, we only have that because these consoles are just a computer at this point. Like it's not anything after, I think, kind of the GameCube. That's all these are. They're a budget, and when I say budget, like it's still kind of expensive for a console, and they are selling them at a loss, like Kurgle said earlier. So, yeah, I don't know. Who knows, right? Who knows on that? That's all. I think speculation. We're getting so many rumors now. It's like, what do you even say about some of this stuff? Like the Switch 2 has been so incredibly hard to keep up with. There was a daggone it, I did not get to put this one in there, but there was a Nintendo investor meeting that happened, and they would not answer Switch 2 questions. They dodged the Zelda movie questions as well.
Pretty much,
Like that's another
you'll
PR
hear it when
thing.
we're ready to announce it. Pretty much, we're
Yeah,
not going to tell you until we're ready, which kind of makes sense. And it's the same with the rumors. It's like I'll believe it when I actually hear something. Other than that, it's just a rumor, and I can't prove that you know anything until it's actually announced. So,
yep,
100%.
I agree with that. But there is supposed to be a Switch or Nintendo Direct happening. A lot of the rumors have said that it's going to be a developers direct, so it's going to be other games, not first party games. But I also saw that one of them said that it was going to be like a first party direct. So I don't know that we get like the Switch name or any announcement until like the April direct. Yeah, you're good. I don't think we get any news or anything as far as like Switch 2 until like the April direct personally, but I think they're gonna wait.
Then again, like how they say leaks and this and that, like that's usually coordinated, and they're probably just they have like certain strategies to build momentum up to an event, and then they also have probably numbers they have to hit for the shareholders, So that's
Always.
probably a big thing that they do. So, I mean, I'm sure in due time we're gonna know, but also I'm kind of worried about it. I'm really worried that if Nintendo doesn't release a great like upgrade to Switch 1, that is going to be really hard for them to like start taking not new clients. Jesus, my work's been in my head so much that I'm mentioning customers as clients, but the customers or people that are going to be new additions to the Nintendo family is going to be really hard time for them to kind of gather more people, because I don't know, man. I have such doubts about Nintendo lately that I'm worried they're gonna if in the next 5 years they don't do something drastically good. I don't know how they're gonna do it, honestly. They might as well just like take all their franchises and start making TV shows and movies and shit.
I don't know. The Switch has done very well.
I know it's done well.
It's in
I just feel like
competition to beat the PS2 for the most sold ever. It's like really close to being the biggest selling console ever. So, but I know what you're saying. Like one of the things that worries me is like they stay with the hybrid sort of thing, which they're going to. Like it's done so well. Nintendo's not going to stray from that like that. They're not just going to abandon that. But if we don't get beefy enough hardware, like what are multi-platform AAA releases gonna do? Now,
you're gonna phase Switch out.
Yeah, I mean it's not going to
But that's my
that's
my worry. That's what I'm saying. Like when you think about what was it, Red Dead Redemption 1 released on Switch, and you take a look at that shit, and it's like this feels like PlayStation 2. Like it legit just it looks awful. And I'm the last person to worry about graphics. Like if it has a good story, if it has good gameplay, I don't care if you put Minecraft blocks in front of me. I will play it, right? I'm that type of person. But then I look at Switch and I'm like, I had my fun with it 5 years ago, and I feel like there's so much they could do, but they're stubborn in their ways, and they're so like set in their ways that there's gonna be their downfall. I don't know. I hope it doesn't, but it just looks like that right now.
They're
That's
banking on the
fair.
fact that their first party games are so popular they can just sell those and they'll be fine. That's probably the mindset that they're in
Do you
right now.
guys feel like you could play like Mario games for next 40 years?
I still play
Yeah.
'em. I still
It's
play
a,
'em,
it's a
so I
super
think
hype.
I could.
And no, and I could too. Like, but for how long? I don't know.
I still
Maybe
play.
I'm disconnected because I'm not
I
because I
still
didn't
play
have
the.
it.
They innovate on Mario though. I think
Yeah.
the 3D Marios are always pretty different in my opinion. The 2Ds, I mean, like you can only do so much of 2D, right? Wonder was
Mhm.
amazing though. I think they
Yeah,
did
no, I
what they
saw it.
could.
Looks fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, I still play old SNES Mario games
me
like
too.
Mario 3, Yoshi's Island, and stuff like that. I still play those games like probably pushing 25, 30 years later.
Same.
Yeah,
So I
and
think
maybe I'm
there's a lot of
disconnected because I
replayability.
didn't have it as a kid, so it's not a super nostalgic thing for me. Like I played them, but it wasn't like my main thing, right? I was always on PC. So I don't know, maybe I'm a little disconnected and my concerns are not valid, but I don't know, man. I just sometimes look at it and I'm like, this could be so much more, and then they decide to just I don't
Well, I will say this: people love our Switch talk because that's what we get the most comments about. So it is interesting to hear what everybody thinks on it. I don't know, like the DLSS could save it in a way, but we're obviously going to get beefier hardware. It's just like to what extent? Like they're not going to go the Asus ROG Ally 2 route, right? Like when that drops, they're not. It's not going to be.
know.
It's not going to be a PC in the handheld. I don't think. I mean,
No, they're
And
too
at
stubborn with their
$400, which is what we're
yeah.
getting a rumor at, which sounds right. Nintendo doing a $500 console. I don't know. I don't think that would fly.
I mean, they could do a $400 console, but
It would have to be
it has to
beefy.
be beefed up, or at the very least, their docked mode, if they're gonna do a Switch 2, needs to be beefier
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
what they do with the handheld mode.
Well, it needs to have like real hardware in it, unlike the dock
I
that
mean, it
we
needs
have
to be.
now.
It's really small and thin, but you're like, you're really limiting yourself with how light this actually is and small it is.
Yeah, I mean, like people don't mind the Steam Deck, for instance, and that's a pretty hefty handheld.
I would say if there's any hope, it's the fact that a lot of these other handhelds that are doing well, like the Steam Deck, are gonna force Nintendo to do something,
That's
to
that, and
continue
that's
to
what I'm
innovate.
hoping for. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for because I feel like there's so much potential. Like they just they are so adamant about their first party games that they don't really have to worry about other studios and things. But
They sell
uh,
so well. That is the problem, right? And like the Switch, um, I think potentially has probably the best library of games that we've ever had in history. I mean, if you look
yeah,
at
and especially because of the stuff they brought with the Nintendo membership or
yeah,
whatever, you can play the
Yeah.
retro titles. And I think that's a really cool aspect of it. And I don't want people to think that I'm like that I don't like Nintendo and that I don't, like the Switch. I do. It's just like there's so many things. I just want them to get better because I
yeah,
feel like there's so much potential there, and then sometimes it just feels like it's wasted, and it just bugs me.
I get it. I mean,
No,
that's a fair concern, I think. Mark, what do you think in general as far as like what we know or don't know? Like what are you thinking? What
I don't know anything, to be honest. I mean, ultimately, Nintendo's going to do what they're going to do, and their next console is going to sell well because they have their install base that likes it, and they've always got a good library. And their first party games are for the most part polished and enjoyable games to just pick up and play.
Yeah.
It's just whether they actually care about third party games at this point, or is it the fact? I guess the only concern is, are we going to have another Wii and Wii U situation where the Switch does so well that they kind of get jaded on the follow up, and they kind of reality kind of hits them in the face, like, oh,
There's so
I
many
can't-
things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I had the Wii U in mind when I was thinking about why I think they won't stray too far away from the Switch formula is because of that. The Wii U was such a flop. Like, it flopped so hard, and people thought the Switch 2, well, that's it for Nintendo. Like, or not the Switch 2, the Switch itself. They thought that people were disregarding it. Like, developers weren't on board, third-party developers. There were so few third-party
Yeah,
games in the beginning.
But it made sense even with the Wii how underpowered it was compared to the Xbox 360 and the PS3. It was like, yeah, it's essentially it's a different game. But I mean, Nintendo kind of shot themselves in the foot. Like, the Switch had to take off, or the company as a whole was going to be in a lot of problems.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but the Wii is basically just a GameCube. Essentially, that's all it is.
Yeah.
It's a better CPU, I think, in it, and that's like it. There's nothing. It didn't even have HDMI. The Wii didn't even have an HDMI port at the time, and like that was
Yeah.
already pretty standardized by like 4 years at that point. So but it still sold. Like, it did well. I mean, it was in nursing
It had
homes.
it had the gimmick to it in the games where anybody could kind of pick it up. But your big hardcore gamers, for the most part, it was kind of like a sideshow.
Yep,
Yeah.
it was. In other news, though, we do got this just dropped a few hours ago. I was looking to make sure it wasn't just the website, but we've got a Sega leaker reveals details on upcoming Crazy Taxi Jet Set Radio games. So apparently, the new Crazy Taxi revival is going to be both a remake and reboot for a new series. So yeah, so it looks like they might be banking on like just bringing that back in general. The Jet Set Radio is being targeted for a 2027 release, which is pretty far out.
Which means that game's still early in development.
Yeah, they must have like announced it and hadn't even started it yet. Because for a game like that, that's pretty far away. That got announced last year. So
You need to go I think more companies need to go the Nintendo route of, we're not even going to tell you anything about the game until it's like a few months out from release.
I'm with
we
you.
don't deal with this overhyped thing.
Or get
'Cause then
like
it's
a
like,
Skull
oh,
and Bones.
I want to play this
situation.
game, and then you're gonna sit on it for years, and while you're sitting on it, you're gonna overhype the crap out of it.
I have a
Yeah.
game in mind because of that. Metroid Prime 4. Like, I would have been better off not knowing about it. It's like,
I think enough people were like, I want to know it's out there, but the problem was the whole reset development. That game's got to be
Yep.
close to coming out.
it's yeah. I mean, I think that's a good discussion for being potentially a launch title. Normally, we get a 3D Mario at launch. Like, with every console, we have a 3D Mario launch since the 64. But yeah, I mean, it's got to be so close that we got to be getting that. And I think that has potential to be a cross-platform game because Zeldas do that all the time. Twilight Princess was on GameCube and Wii U.
Yeah.
Breath of Wild was on Wii U and Switch. So I think it's possible that it
But
comes
it's
to
never
both.
it's never been a system seller. That's the problem.
It's
always
not,
it's been
no.
like one of their weakest first party title series that they have continued to actually pump out games for.
Yep,
But,
I agree.
mean, who knows what the future holds.
But we also got with the Sega news, a Virtua Fighter reboot is rumored to be in the works, as well as a Super Monkey Ball title exclusive to Apple Arcade. Which, give me a new console one. I don't care about the Apple Arcade personally. I bought it for a month to play that Sonic that dropped on it, and it's a pretty good Sonic for being mobile. But I have such a hard time with mobile gaming because I use my phone so much for work and other things that it's very distracting. And I feel like I cannot put my phone in do not disturb for very long. So to have like a long gaming session on my phone is very hard. Q Raid Shadow Legends.
Hit us up.
Hit
We're
us
gonna
up,
chill
yeah.
out for you.
Yeah, we'll be a shill for Raid. Has anybody played that?
No, I don't play mobile games.
I take it you have played it.
No.
Okay.
Though I did know I was reading this. I'm not trying to jump the ship.
No,
but
go
did
ahead.
you know that apparently it's coming on 10 years since the whole Twitch Plays Pokemon thing happened?
I saw that. Yeah,
Apparently they're
Twitch
trying to
plays.
they're bringing that back.
Twitch Plays Pokemon. They're trying to bring it back for its 10th anniversary. Essentially, Twitch chat plays a Pokemon game.
It's really
Like
it's
the
really
original,
cool.
it was such an
Oh.
iconic thing. I think a lot of memes about the Helix God meme was like a thing at one point or something like that.
I never saw that.
Yeah.
Where it's
Well,
like
that just came
thousands
out today, right, Mark?
Yeah.
That news.
Yeah, it's like thousands of people on Twitch chat essentially trying to beat a Pokemon game.
Interesting.
It was
Yeah.
obviously the older, the original game, but it's still like an interesting concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm for that. That's cool. We got. Was there anything else on that line from that? No. Did we really talk Helldivers too much or at all?
We
Did
didn't. We didn't.
Yeah, let's talk
Nah.
about that because that just came out yesterday.
Yeah, it's doing really good. It
Yeah.
actually surpassed God of War for the best launch of a PlayStation game or a Sony title, I guess, for PC. And this is particularly on Steam. So they've been doing good, and it was weird because I'm like Helldivers. I know I saw that game somewhere, and it's been a few since the first game came out, and then this is a completely different take. It's fully third person. It's not a top down. It looks really polished. I mean, I've seen a couple of bugs, but really nothing major, and it just looks really fun. I didn't play it personally, but I watched probably like 6 or 7 hours of streaming,
Yeah.
while working and stuff. And I just had it in the background. And whenever I would look over, I was like, holy shit, this looks really fun. Um, what do you guys think? Is it
Uh,
something you guys are gonna pick up?
So I think for me
Probably
it's
not.
gonna be a sale game, but it looks really good, and you know what? It's surprisingly done better than I expected because nobody was talking about this game, and the only reason it had any discourse again was because of the state of play. And like
Yeah.
it didn't really look that good in the state of play to me, in my opinion. It didn't look like anything great, but it looks like
I feel like
a good game.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people discredited it because it looked in a sense a lot like Destiny 2, and I feel like there's been so many shitty news about Destiny 2. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like every time I read an article now it's like
Something
just
negative.
really really bad stuff about it. And when I saw Helldivers, I was like, Jesus Christ, this looks so fun.
Yeah.
Like it looks like something that I would definitely pick up whenever I had a question of like, what do I want to play? Kind of just zone out. Like it's a difficult game too, but it looks like something that I would pick up on a regular basis
Yeah.
to kind of zone out and forget about real life stuff for a minute.
I mean, it's essentially Starship Troopers, right? Which I'm a fan of. I think it looks
Yeah.
okay. I'll play it probably later on, and I considered getting it to talk about so we could have like more in depth conversation on it, but um, there was just too much, and we didn't even mention the I got some other stuff from today, but we got the Final Fantasy Rebirth demo. I did play that, played through the whole thing. Talk about. Essentially, you play through a flashback scene, and your data transfers over. It looks
Mhm.
beautiful. It looks really good. I had a little concern that I noticed, like on performance mode, it looked a little blurry with some of the fast movement. Like it would get kind of blurry at times, and I went to go check to make sure it wasn't like just a me thing, and it looks like other people said the same sort of thing. But in general, like it does look really good. It's a big jump up from the first part, like massive jump up. It really looks good. It plays good. It's very fluid. But yeah, you play a flashback scene, and you do get to play as Sephiroth as well. So that's cool. You can play as both. Um, but it is definitely a jump up, and I saw a lot of good things about it. It took me about an hour and a half to get through, just playing straight through, not messing around. Just wanted to see
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a whole flashback scene. I like that your data, carries over to the game. I like when they do that because it gives more of an incentive to play if I plan on playing the base game. So I thought that was good stuff. Very fun. I'm really looking forward to that game. Super excited about that. So that is good stuff. And then I saw that Ubisoft commented today. CEO commented about the Xbox stuff, and I am not even going to try to say the CEO's name because I'm not even going to try.
Some kind of French name.
Yeah, something. Ubisoft believes Xbox going multi-platform would not have a major impact on the gaming industry. He pointed out that Microsoft's biggest gaming subsidiary, Activision Blizzard, has long been a multi-platform publisher already. He said that recently that many of the Xbox exclusives, such as Starfield, could soon be going multi-platform. Microsoft promised an event on the 12th, so he essentially buys in that he's like, hey, this isn't going to be a big deal, and it's happening.
Maybe for the studios it just acquired, but I think as a whole, it would have an impact on the gaming sphere as a whole. Especially if they take a major step back as far as the hardware itself goes, or they bow out altogether. I think that would have a huge impact on the industry as a whole.
Me too.
So maybe for his studio or certain studios, maybe not as much, but the industry as a whole, yeah, I think it would definitely have impacts. But I just don't know what they would be.
It like ends the quote unquote console war, right? Because Nintendo has
Yeah.
never been in competition with anybody. Like they're in their
Not
own
in the last
lane.
20 years.
Yeah, since a GameCube, I don't think it's
Yeah.
ever been in competition again. They said we don't care. We got our first party releases. We'll make this beefy enough at launch to bring other games to it, but well, sometimes with the
I
console
mean, it's
releases.
for the most part, it's kind of showed Nintendo can do their own thing and kind of stand on its own two legs for the most part. But
yeah,
but they have so many gamers that they're losing out on.
I don't think they
I don't know.
care. I think
I
it's
know
like
I know they don't. I know they don't. I'm just saying, like, a lot of the times these consoles see exclusivity as a good thing, which at the end, like, if you're an actual gamer, like, I know so many adults, they're like, I'm just gonna own all three of the major ones because I don't care. It's childish. I just want to play video games, right? And I don't think, especially when it comes to games, right? I'm not even talking about consoles. I'm talking about, if the Mario titles, you could buy them on Xbox or PlayStation, they would be, I truly believe, so much better off. But
yeah.
I don't know.
Nintendo's never
Uh,
gonna do that. They're never gonna relinquish control
no,
of that
I
stuff.
know. I know. I know.
I
I'm just
mean,
saying, like, do you, I mean, does it make sense what I'm saying?
No, yeah, I
Like,
understand, but if you look at it from a business side, it's maybe not always that cut clear because I mean we've said it before. These are businesses; they're going to do what's in their best interest or what they feel is in their best interest,
I
and
agree.
maybe they don't
No, I
they
agree.
don't always want to relinquish a form of control that we could only just make the games, but we could lose some control over uh, how we make the money, how the hardware is that we're making the games. Do we have to give something to some of these other like if we publish it to
Yeah.
on a PlayStation, does Sony then have some amount of control over what we're publishing on their platform and stuff like that?
the other
Probably.
thing
I'm sure there's concerns.
The other thing to bring up is that everybody I know personally that is like actually into gaming like we are, whether you're on PC or console, always owns a Switch. They have it just for the first party titles and that's it. I play everything else on PC. I play everything else on my
I mean,
other
it's
console of choice. That's how it always is. Always.
it's affordable now, especially when you're adults, and it's really cheap, and it's just kind of like I think that's what they banked on. It's like you'll buy this console because you want to play our first party games because they're that good. So
Yeah.
Secondary
why?
console is what I've.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, it's a
But I mean,
secondary console for people.
they make their money anyways, regardless whether it's a primary or secondary. So they don't.
do.
I think they just don't care.
Yep. I mean, I know people
Yeah,
that buy
I
the
mean,
console just for Pokemon. And like that's it. Like that's all they play.
I bought the Switch originally for Metroid Prime 4. Like that's the only reason I bought the Switch originally.
You got screwed on that one.
Yeah, I kind of did.
Yeah.
Hey, but at least I got Prime 1, so I'll take
Yeah.
what I can get.
That remaster's so good too. I love it. big fan. What do you think about 2 and 3 though? What's your we
I
never
think
saw
it's inevitable if you're gonna have 4, because 1, 2, and 3 is a continuing story. As much as the first 2 games don't
Hunters.
really don't really I don't want to count that, but Prime 1 and Prime 2 don't really are. You could play them independently of each other, and it's not going to affect it. But once you get to the third game, it's very obvious where those 2 games kind of fall in.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to continue that story into 4, it makes sense, and it's not like it's going to cost them that much to bring 2 and 3 to the Switch.
What's weird is I am shocked that they didn't do well. I guess kind of not, because it did sell pretty well. Like, it was the best-selling Metroid game besides Dread. Like, 3D Metroid is the best-selling. Like, it sold more than all the others. Dread did surpass the remaster, but that's kind of to be expected. It's a new game. But we didn't get a trilogy.
Also finished it. No, I was gonna say Dread also just kind of was the end of a series, of a story.
That's true. And we didn't get trilogy brought over, which was what I thought would happen. It was on Wii. It was on Wii U. Again, you could buy it on the store, but you could buy the trilogy. So they're definitely going to do 2 and 3 separately then, right?
Well, I think you have to at this point, because I think 1 and 2 are the easiest games to port. The problem with 3 is it was always designed with motion controls first. Because I played the game and it was very obvious it was designed. So how do you? And obviously, if you're playing it on the Switch, the Joy-Cons aren't really designed to do that kind of stuff. Like, it has to be ported to a controller. So that's the only game that I would assume is kind of like the hardest game to port. But it had some form of controller support when it came out originally. So
yeah, you could use the classic controller with it.
Yeah.
So it concerns me because Skyward Sword is really, really good on Wii. So motion controls, they're gyro on the Switch, so which is just by default not accurate. It's not an IR sensor. By default, gyro is just not accurate for that. So I was so disappointed with the remaster for that game that I never even beat it, and I love Skyward Sword. I didn't even beat it. It just felt so bad to me.
The game was so gimmicky, forced motion controls in the first place. It was never going to be an easy game to even port without like rebuilding it from the ground up.
Well, like, it has non-motion control in it. It's just terrible. Like, it feels.
Yeah.
You could tell that like it just does not work. Yeah.
It was designed for the Wii.
Yeah. It just that kind of sucks. But yeah, I hope for the best with those. But Fortnite, to add into that, just because they added Shredder into Fortnite, so that's kind of cool. Play with the turtles now.
Who isn't in Fortnite at this point? I think that's the bigger question.
Crazy.
Lego Fortnite, that was crazy to me. So, but yeah, I mean, it looks like that. Just to add on to the Switch 2 stuff. It does say that they're set to announce it in March, which, again, I gave my sort of thoughts on that. I don't know that they will. I don't know. I feel like they would announce it in the earliest, like, summer, to me, based on, like, what they did with the Switch and the Wii U, the way they did those. So, I don't know about that one, but developers have already had access to it for a while, apparently. So it's also saying that yes, it is going to be significantly beefier hardware. So that rumor eases some concern, I guess.
But I mean, that makes sense. Like, if you want games at launch within the first year, you need a few years to have access to the software hardware of the system. That way you can develop games for it. So when it launches, you've got games kind of coming out for it.
Right.
But
yeah. That's
ultimately
true.
we're not gonna know until they announce it. So,
hey, Kurger, what Steam sales did we have that you had brought up? We had quite a few, right?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things you guys can grab that's really good right now. Actually, there's 2 games that you can grab on Epic Games for free. There was sales on Rockstar Games, so you can grab Red Dead Redemption 2 on a sale, Max Payne titles, all the GTAs. There's also Mud Runner, which is a really fun game for our country boys. where you can go mudding, transporting stuff with big trucks. It's only $3.99 on Steam right now. Actually, Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon is on 30% off. There's also Steam's Next Fest, where you can check out a bunch of demos for free, a bunch of titles that are coming up, and then also there is the Lunar New Year sale as well, and also Halo, the Master Chief Collection is $10, so I might grab that actually. So yeah, some really nice discounts, and yeah, check out Epic Games. You can get some free games. So
Heck
Yeah, and
yeah,
I was poking around on Steam, and apparently, uh, most if not all the Yakuza games are
oh
like
yeah, I
under
saw
$10
that.
right
Yes,
now.
yes.
Ooh,
Actually, yeah, I saw that.
If it's not like
nice.
obviously it's like for like 3 and 5 it's the remastered version obviously, but like
Yeah,
I was just poking there was like, oh, all these games are like on the under $10 for like however long it's gonna be.
yeah. It should tell
Oh,
you. Yakuza, there it is.
Oh, until the
Let me just
15th,
see.
till February 15th.
Yeah, yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Or you can get the whole buy the Yakuza collection bundle and it's like $44. So the price of like a new game you can get essentially
All of
most of
them.
the or like all the games.
Oh, actually,
I
I might
highly
do that.
recommend
I have
playing the
people.
series though. It's really good. Like it's I mean Yakuza is essentially a continuation of Shinmu, which is like, a cult classic Shinmu 1 and 2. And I've been
Interesting.
playing since Shinmu 1. There are a few that I missed, like there was Yakuza whatever the origin games were, Yakuza what was that? God, I forget. Like the prequel games. I haven't played those. There's two of them. Um but yeah, I mean it's totally worth diving in. $10 a piece, that's a good deal. I would highly recommend that.
And then also there's the Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is that's the newest one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
But
no,
that one,
no, the
that
new
one,
Well,
one just
there's
came out. The new one just came
well
out.
there's like two Like a Dragon games out right now. It's like I think one is like the Ishii and then it's the one that just came out.
yeah.
Or
Well,
Ishin or
yeah.
something like that.
Well, before those, the Like a Dragon was the newest one, and
Yeah.
that's currently at 80% off. You can grab it for $12.
Heck yeah.
Um, it
The
looks
best
really
part
fun.
that's one of the benefits of I guess if you're gonna go all digital on PC is you can get some great deals on Steam if you wait long
I'm
enough for games.
literally thinking about grabbing this right now.
You should.
I might grab
I,
all the Yakuza games because
So
it's
there's
so
the
cheap.
there's the Yakuza Kiwami, there's Yakuza 0, Kiwami 2, 3 remaster, 4
Zero.
remaster,
Yeah.
5 remaster, 6.
Yeah, that's the whole
Is
collection
that
bundle. The 7 games for it says it's 69% off, but it's at $44.03.
Nice.
I just clicked on one, and when I popped up on the sale, like to buy the game individually, it's got the
yeah.
bundles.
Well, but I wonder, are they all connected?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
They
There's a
are. I
few
just don't
that
remember
are
exactly.
Zero. Like I said, it's like a prequel where
I think
they're the most different.
Kiwami is a remaster of the original game. I think because it's the original game is a really old game.
Oh, that started on Legend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It says
Yeah,
it
I
in the
think that's how
description
it
too.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remaster from the ground out now 4K on cap frame rates.
I mean, if you click on it, it'll tell you for sure.
Man, that's crazy. Yeah, I'm probably just gonna buy this right now. I'm broke, but this is a good deal.
That is a really good deal.
I mean,
That is a really good
that's
deal.
literally like months of streaming for me right there.
Well, there you go.
It's
So
7 games for the
probably,
price of one.
Justified.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a great series. I gotta play the new one. There's so much right now that I just know that I'm not going to be able to get around to it. And it's not a priority to me. But Like a Dragon was really fun. Obviously, you got to be in the turn-based RPGs because it was the most different in the entire series, way different than anything else. And then now they're doing the Yakuza series as Like a Dragon and Like a Dragon, like those games or what I forget what it is. There's going to be two different series popping out, and one of them's going to be the beat 'em up style game, and then one of them's going to be turn-based RPG. So they're gonna
Mhm.
do both styles, which is interesting. And Like Dragon did surprisingly well for being a turn-based RPG because companies are scared to do that now. So it just does not. They don't do as well. Like
I watched some
turn-based.
of it. It is turn based, but it's a more engaging turn based. Like it still feels it's not like a static, like you take a field like Baldur's Gate or
Any kind
uh,
of 90s
different.
JRPG, pretty much.
yeah. It's that I mean, I probably logged in like 20, 30 hours of watching people play specifically like a dragon. Granted in like kind of background as I'm working, but it was it was enjoyable to watch as much as I did. But yeah, those are some games that you guys can grab, and I do have to go now, unfortunately. I want to talk about video games for hours on end, but I got to go put the kids to sleep. I'm
Okay.
sure Brandon and Mark have some more things to talk about, but I will see you all next week. Thank you all.
All
Have a
right.
good night.
See you later. So Mark, this is pretty interesting. So this news popped out about 4 days ago. Yu-Gi-Oh! Early Days collection is coming, and that bundles some of the first games essentially that were released, and several of them are ones that we never got here. So a lot of them were handheld games, but this bundles Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters 4, Battle of the Great Duelists for the Game Boy Color, which launched in 2000. It'll be available for Switch and PC, it looks like. But Konami has not announced the other titles in the collection. So my assumption is they might go with some of the console ones as well. But I mean, it's cool that we get games here that were never localized and brought over.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm long past the whole Yu-Gi-Oh phase at this point. I'm gonna be realistic, but it's good that they're bringing some of these older games back over.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I would pick it up or play not or not, but I did play a lot of them as a kid. A lot of them. My favorite is Dark Duel Stories for the Game Boy Color, so I would love to see that brought over. I would if they brought that one over, I probably would play that.
I think I still have one on the Game Boy Advance somewhere that I've had for years and I haven't played since.
There's a lot on the GBA. There's a lot. There's a lot on the PS2. That's what
I mean,
this was saying. Like Duelist
to be
of the
fair, there's not a
Roses.
whole lot to the game. It's just a card game on a console, so it's not like it was really expensive to develop.
Yeah, no, you're right. But it's cool. I mean, it's still cool nonetheless. And for Yu-Gi-Oh fans that don't get much content or stuff in anything but the card game, it's cool, and it gives the opportunity to experience some of those games that people may have missed. And that nostalgia too.
Yeah. Every time I think of Yu-Gi-Oh, I think of like the VR meme, where the dude is constantly playing the pot of greed.
Oh,
It do be like that, Yugi.
I
Because
love it.
Joey has a New York accent for some reason.
Yeah, I know. It never made any sense. And then you hear like the Japanese voice actors. Just so different. So different. They went a weird route with the localization of that series. Do you remember so they would have I forget if it was on the Toonami block. I know it was at some point, but when it first came out here, I remember watching the first episode when it premiered over here, and it was right after Pokemon. So it was a Pokemon new episode and then Yu-Gi-Oh. But the thing that was hard for me was that our bedtime was 9 o'clock, and it came on at 9 o'clock. So it was like
You never got to see it.
yeah. So I hardly ever got to see it unless I like tried to sneak into it or whatever. But do you remember that? Like it came on after Pokemon new episodes?
Something along that to some degree. But I always remembered it being more on the. I remember more the Toonami that was aired at like 5 o'clock, not the Saturday night one. More often than not. By the time it moved to Saturday, I definitely it didn't watch it as much. But when I think of Toonami, I'm thinking the after school Toonami. That's like it's real prime time, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's really hit or miss with some of that stuff because I wasn't always wasn't always something I would consistently watch. It was just kind of like I'd watch it if I had time or if I was outside doing something else. That's kind of what I was doing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, there was Toonami was weird because it changed times a lot, and what they cycled through was really weird on how they chose the stuff. Like Sailor Moon was on Toonami, and like
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
yeah, Well, and then like the non-anime stuff that was on Toonami was a little like they aired stuff that did not last long at all. Like really weird stuff. You go back and watch like some compilations or just like the history. For some reason, I get this nostalgia for Toonami all the time.
To
So
be
like,
fair, I think whoever was in charge really botched what Toonami actually was.
Dude,
Just some
yeah.
weird decisions with shows.
Tom at the end, like how he looked like a robot from Wall-E. Like it was really bad. Really, really
I never
bad.
cared about the whole Tom Sega. I was
Oh,
like,
dude,
get to the show.
I did. I loved it.
I never cared as much. It was like, come on, get to the show.
I dug it. I thought it was cool. I thought it gave it like its own branding, which I thought was
Yeah, it did, but I just liked it more as I really only remember it more as a bumper than anything else. But
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. Apparently, it looks like they were showing the PS5 sales. I mean, I'm not shocked. This is from today. Not shocked, but I am kind of shocked that they're to this extent. So essentially, the sales are a 2-to-1 sale. So there's almost double the sales on PS5 versus Series X and Series S, the two consoles.
for what exactly again?
So PS5 is outsold.
Oh, just the
Xbox
console?
2-to-1. Yeah.
I mean, you just look at game exclusive. That definitely makes sense.
Well, that adds
For the
into
last like 2 generations for the PS4 now PS5, the Sony exclusives are just on average better 1-for-1, and there tends to be more of them.
I mean, Xbox realistically hasn't done well since a 360, where in that generation they did better than PlayStation on sales.
But I mean, when you look at the end, it really wasn't that big of it. Like the PS3 at the end of its life definitely closed the gap at the end when they kind of fixed their initial botched launch of that console.
Oh, that was the problem.
Like the second half of that life definitely closed the gap, but you just don't think of the PS3 as the sales being as close as it actually was in the end.
Yeah, the other thing was that PS3, obviously developers got better at it, and I believe it was when they released the Slim hardware changed to make it easier for developers, but the PS3 had
It also wasn't stupid expensive after a while. They're like, let's kind of gut some of this hardware that didn't need to be there in that launch. I mean, the whole
$600 launch.
The Blu-ray was great, but it made that console massively way too unaffordable compared to what the 360 was doing.
I agree, and it's weird. A lot. I want to say, I can't give an actual number, but I want to say at least 75% of the games perform and look better on the 360 when that shouldn't be the case because PlayStation had access to Blu-ray and the Xbox doesn't, so it holds way more data. It's faster by nature.
I just pulled it up, and technically, according to this is just Wikipedia because this is the first thing that popped up. Technically, the PS3 outsold the 360, so they're saying the 360 sold 84 million and the PS3 sold 87.4 million. That's worldwide life cycle sales. So obviously, maybe in the US it might not have been that, but the fact that technically the PS3 outsold the 360 is crazy.
That is crazy because that is not what I thought. And
I want to see if I can't find something other than Wikipedia to verify it. But
yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, like if you look at almost all the games, the better way to play is 360. There are some exceptions, but not many. Like as a collector, I dive deep into all that. Most of the multi-platform games are better on 360, which should not be the case, obviously. But PS3 was hard to optimize, and developers struggled with it because it had a cell processor, which was entirely unique. So for them, it was hard to maneuver, and that's why for a long time it took years to build up that PS3 library to where it was like solid for multi-platform games. But they did. I think it was the Slim that changed that, but eventually it did do better. It was easier to develop for, but they still struggled. I mean, they were Blu-ray discs, and like the thing that sucks about that is like if you're a collector and you're looking to collect and own these games long term, Blu-rays have way less of a chance, and it'll probably be after our lifetime that's an issue. way
Yeah.
less of a chance to get disc rot. So, I mean, DVDs just they get disc rot easier. Now, I think
Yeah.
360 games were pretty far off, but if you're looking for like to preserve or have a collection later on down the road, like Blu-ray disc is your best bet. But unfortunately, there's actually a lot of games that just do not perform well at all versus like the 360. And then there's other ones where the 360 just runs at a stable 60 and the resolution looks better.
Yeah.
So
So there was a note on here that said the final sales are greater than the reported figure. So I don't know exactly as far as that whole PS3 thing. So I don't know exactly what that means, but if they're accumulating, but that's kind of the reported thing, and that's crazy.
that is crazy.
I mean the Wii still blew it out with over 100 million sales.
Yeah, well, but by far blew it out that generation, which that was like a revolution that to me I thought would probably never happen again. But we've seen it switch at this point. Like
I mean, I was looking at some of this other stuff. I mean, because I don't know, because when they count, this says DS sales. Obviously, it's every single version of the DS rolled into one sales
Yeah.
figure. It's only like 1 million sales behind the PS2.
yeah, I know.
'Cause
It's
according to
it's
this,
the
the
second.
PS2 sold about 155, and every version of the DS 154. Though that's kind of like I wouldn't consider every version of the DS to be the same. That is crazy.
Yeah, I knew that one. That it
But that's the same
doesn't
thing with the
surprise
Game
me.
Boy and the Game Boy Color combined sold a crap ton.
They did, yeah. Game Boys were everywhere. They were cheap, and DSs. I mean, DS just like there was 3 iterations of the DS. The DS Lite did so well when that came out versus the original DS. Like they were everywhere. Everybody had one. It was a really good portable system. Like in general, it was just a good platform. So that's one reason it did well. And it
Yeah.
wasn't it was pretty cheap for the time. So
And I mean, what you said, obviously the Switch sales are dropping off, but it's the third best-selling console as it stands right now. And if you just take, home consoles kind of out of it, you take the DS out of it, it's like it's number 2 to the PS2. Though they classify as like hybrid, but it is what it is.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a console. Like
Yeah.
it's not just saying.
I mean, it's outsold the PS4.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And like, here's the other thing too: is that Switch 2 comes out. We who knows? Like, we don't know
I have
exactly
no idea
like
what's gonna
what.
happen.
Yeah, and the Switch will still stay around for a few years. Like, we're still going to get games released for the Switch for probably a good 4 years in. If not, we might see this generation for Nintendo be the platform that gets the games for the longest when the next console's out. I feel like it could out like the PS2.
I-
got sports games. What was the last one? 2014, I think. FIFA 14, I want to think is like the last game.
crazy.
That's crazy.
Well, the PS2 was just that easy to develop for.
Dude, it was. Yeah, I'll double check, but I
guess-
think it was 14 because
To me, the big question is, are they going to continue to use the same cartridge style format? Because that's going to determine how long the Switch itself could last. Obviously,
Yeah.
some games might drop the support for the old Switch if there's that big of a hardware jump. But I mean, if it's using the same kind of, the cartridge, that means the Switch probably will have a long supporting life cycle until Nintendo hard says we're not going to support it anymore with newer games.
yeah, that's the other thing. If it's backwards compatible, I think we see games released for it for several years to come. And the other thing is like the discourse on like what is going to be the last first party Nintendo game? Like what's coming? Like how long is Nintendo going to support it?
We won't know.
We won't know, but like here's a weird thing. I don't know if you know this, but for the last couple of generations, obviously handheld. Pokemon games have came out after the new console is already out, like the next thing, handheld even. So
Yeah.
like the DS, Black 2, White 2 came out when the 3DS was already out. For 3DS, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out when the Switch was already out. So like we see that all the time. Like there's a potential that Pokemon is one of the last things that we see for it, but even like the 3DS, like we got a Luigi's Mansion remake that came out when the Switch was already out, a Metroid game that came out when the Switch. I mean, Samus Returns, like that's amazing game, and that came out. Switch was already out. Kirby, what was the last Kirby on there? Planet, I think it was Planet Robobot. We always get a Kirby game too. That's the other thing. Always get a Kirby game when the next console's out. That's happened since the NES. So it'll be interesting to see how long Nintendo supports it. Other companies, they're going to support it for a while. Like there's such an install base for the Switch that it would be kind of dumb for some of these companies to not,
I mean, it's talking like the Wii. It maybe not to the degree of like the PS2, but it had fairly long
2020 for
support.
Just Dance was the last Wii game.
Yeah, because it's like then again that's pretty much a copy and paste of the previous game at that point.
It is. So I bought it. Here's a funny story on that. Mike, I'm sure get some backlash on this one, but I bought 5 copies of it at Walmart. They were $5. They marked it down to $5. That game ended up being worth, I don't know what's going on here right now, but because it's a final Wii release, it was very sought after by collectors going for like full sets that wanted the game. And I sold all of them. I listed all of them at the same price for $80 on eBay. Sold every single one of them. Got them for $5. Like I knew I wasn't gonna, hang on to them because I don't care. But yeah, the last PS2 game,
a scalper at that point.
That's not scalping. That's reselling. Like I'm not.
That's what
making
scalping
money.
is. I'm just buying it and reselling it at a higher price.
No, I didn't buy them at the time when I bought them. They weren't worth anything.
Yeah.
So eventually, and around 2020 or not 2020, 2022 is when I sold them all. I bought them knowing that I would probably do something with them, whatever. I thought, like $15 or whatever, use them for trades. But yeah, they ended up being worth quite a bit. The last PS2 game we got was Pro Evolution Soccer 2014.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's like a 14 years support cycle.
Yeah. The
14,
Wii
15
and
years, something like that.
PS2 were on different levels, man. Like they were just unreal. But I mean, like I think the Switch has potential to, especially for like indie games or games that are not obviously trying to take full advantage of hardware or don't need to. I think we see games for it for the next at least 4 years. At least.
Probably. I mean, it depends on how long Nintendo's going to wait before whatever the Switch 2 ends up being gets announced.
And will they continue to sell the Switch? Like,
I mean, the Switch is it's trying to close the gap on the PS2. That's the goal. What
they're
can
aiming
eventually
for it.
outsell?
They're aiming
to that
for
point.
it.
Then you want to continue to sell it. I don't know how much they actually really care about it, but it's close.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they want to do that. Like,
I mean, they need like another 15 to 20 million sales to beat it realistically.
Yeah, the only thing on that, which is still, I mean, it's still highly possible if they sell it for the next, say they sell it for the next 4 years, which a lot of, the 3DS stopped support, or they stopped selling it in, I want to say 2020 or 2019. I can't remember the year that they stopped selling it, but they ended up still selling them, and they discounted them like $100 for a 2DS. So,
yeah. Well, because they had all this stock, they still have to get. Once they stop it, like we're stopped making more, but we have all this inventory we still need to ship out and get rid of.
Right, exactly, yeah, and that just added into the sales there for that. So, yeah, I was looking at these crazy, just like the Switch. Mario Kart was the biggest seller for the 3DS. Mario Kart 7 sold 18.98 million units, and for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is literally a Wii U game, has sold more than any other Switch game, and the numbers are crazy.
That makes sense just for the type of game. It's easy. Everyone knows what it is. And my question is, how many of those sales were like pack-in title sales as well?
I mean, that's a good question because it took a while before they packed anything in.
But I mean, it had to have probably didn't have that big of an impact overall. But I mean, I'd still be curious to know how much of those were here. You can have a 3DS and you get a Mario game. Like, oh, that's a no-brainer.
Well, this is actually good to add in because this is news that I did mean to add in before, but their quarterly update came out 3 days ago, and it reveals that this is kind of a big deal, and I'm curious your opinion on it. But 20 million Tears of the Kingdom sales, which is significantly under Breath of the Wild, Even though like has done really well, gotten 10 out of 10s pretty much across the board. It's become my favorite game of all time. It's a weird toss up between like Ocarina of Time. It's all Zelda pretty much for me as far as like my favorite games, but it sold 20.28 million copies since launch, which is it did just come out last year, so there's potential to sell, more, but
Breath of the Wild's had like 5-6 years to make its sales.
it's true. It sold such gangbusters that being not even close to it is kind of wild.
I'll say this: Breath of the Wild was essentially, it came out at launch, so it had the benefit of you're buying this brand new console, and this is one of the only few games that's kind of out with it. There's some nuance to that discussion is of when you first bought your Switch, when it first had its huge surge in sales. You essentially had a Mario game and a Zelda game. That was really kind of it.
Yep.
So it had a boost of, well, they didn't really have any competition on the Switch, as well as
it was on the Wii U as well. Not that
yeah,
that
but most
probably
people
didn't
bought it on the
contribute.
Switch. Like let's be real. But I think that's part of it. And then it's probably a lot of people that bought it didn't necessarily care. 20 million is still decent for within the last year, and who knows how it kind of goes. But some people's like, "Oh, I bought this." I'm like, to some people, it probably looked more of the same world, just a little bit more in depth of the story.
Yeah,
I would say if you were gonna play one, I would just say just play Tears of the Kingdom, because, to be fair, the story is non-existent if you ask me. In Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom always seemed like that's what they wanted to do, but it would have either added too much time, or they didn't want to continue to put that much effort into a game they didn't know if it was how successful it was going to be.
Yeah,
there's probably a lot that goes into those sales. I don't know what Breath of the Wild sold in its first year, but I'm just going to go with the fact that it had no competition, as far as it's the first game out on a console that does not have a lot of games on it.
The only other thing was Odyssey, right? Like first party, I think.
Yeah, and that came out like 6
Switch
months later. Yeah. Like there was like maybe 5 games on the Switch at launch. That was kind of like, if you're gonna buy the Switch at launch, you're getting Zelda. It's really the only other game you're gonna buy. Like that's I think that kind of inflated those numbers artificially. A lot of people Breath of the Wild was a lot of people's first Zelda game to begin with.
It was, yeah. That's true. Yeah, it changed the Zelda landscape forever, honestly. Like, because it brought so many people into the series that, like non-gamers, it was one of those, like, cross-dimensional, or whatever word I'm trying to say, sort of games where it hit the mainstream in that sort of way. And I think there's something to be said about, there were, people that said, like, oh, this is just Breath of the Wild DLC, like, sort of thing. Where people
it's a whole new game, but it's definitely was built on the same engine, obviously built on the same engine, the exact same map. But I played on like, this feels like what they wanted to do originally, but they just couldn't, or they didn't have time to, or they didn't. Well, let's see if this works. And okay, this is the story we actually wanted to tell.
I agree,
because the story in the first game is really bare bones. There's not a lot to the story.
There's not, and then
to be fair, it doesn't really affect the story of the second game. And to be fair, like Tears of the Kingdom kind of ignores a lot of what happened in the first game.
It does, yeah.
Like, what happened to all these old ancient monsters, these giant things, are kind of like just swept to the side.
I agree, and the other thing to consider is you were saying like this is what they wanted to do. Well, Breath of the Wild was a Wii U game ported to Switch, so like they were really working with not beefy hardware. They weren't.
It plays better than the first game, and it shows. Plus, I think the first game came out 2017.
Yeah. Yep.
The landscape of games coming out in 2017 was different than you look at what came out in 2023. Not even on the Switch, but just in general, there's a lot of games that came out last year, which I think probably played into people not necessarily picking up that game, or not picking up right away.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot in favor with Breath of the Wild that benefited its sales.
I think so too. That's a really good point. And
I was listening to your thing. I was like, a lot of good games came out last year. A lot of, at the very least, a lot of big games were coming out. So it had a lot to work against compared to its predecessor.
I argued, which I've said many, many times. I think last year
is in competition or is probably one of the best years in gaming ever. We just got so many. I mean, it was crazy. I have not even got probably play half of those that I've wanted to play. Like you just could. It was one of those years you couldn't keep up, and it was all like good stuff. There was just like great things coming out.
Which means 2024 is going to be kind of a letdown, just because everyone dropped a lot of their good stuff.
It's not a letdown on for the most part. We are having a good start to the year, I think. But yeah, I think that 2024 is going to be hard to top last year because I would say like 2003 and like 97 were probably like the best years if you look at releases. It's generally what other people say too. And I think that last year's in competition easily or is the best year in gaming.
I think there's when you look at game sales, or especially those two Zeldas, like there's a lot of nuance to the discussion. It's not just hard sales says everything, because there's, when the console came out, what year they came out, what competition on the console, what competition is just in the gaming market in general, kind of all play into how well a game does or doesn't do. And I think if Breath of the Wild came out the same year, would have probably performed close to what Tears of the Kingdom's probably doing realistically.
Yep. I think that's
But I mean, as long as you made your money and you made a profit, I mean, the game succeeded at the end of the day.
Yep.
If the game is profiting more than what it costs to actually develop the game, it's a win.
I agree. And it looks like we also got Pikmin 4 has sold 3.3 million, which is the best-selling Pikmin ever. Super Mario Brothers Wonder has sold 11.96 million copies since October 20th, which is crazy. That's a lot for a two. It's really good. Super Mario RPG has sold 3.14 million copies since its launch, and that's surpassed the original game, which is also phenomenal. Like it's a really good remake, and a lot of people didn't play that game, and it's very expensive now. So I think that is a justified remake, and it's just good. Like it sticks to the formula. But like, if people want to play it now and get the physical copy, it's like over $100 for a loose copy of the game.
Like a 25-year-old game at this point? Like it kind of makes sense. Not a lot of those copies probably have survived over the years.
Right, and it was a weird one where it was a collaboration with Square Enix. It did not sell well, but it had a cult following, and
What year did it come out in? I'm curious.
I think it was 97, but I could be wrong.
It's Super Mario RPG, right? The same?
Yeah, Super Mario RPG for SNES. While you're looking that up, we've also got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. We were just talking about it. It's went up to 60.58 million units sold.
Yeah, so it came out in 96, apparently.
Oh, 96, okay, close.
March of 96 for Japan, May of 96 for the US. So it's not like it came out at like the very, well...
It came out
it came out towards the end of its life.
Yeah, it was one of the last.
When did the 64 come out?
98.
I thought it came out earlier than that.
60,
the 64? Because I thought the game.
Oh, it did come out.
It
came out before that. Yeah, it came out before that because Ocarina of Time didn't come out, or came out in 2000, came out in 97. So
okay, so yeah, it came out that to some degree kind of makes up. Everyone's probably looking at the 64. Probably didn't help the sales.
Yeah,
obviously, it had a big install base of people that probably had the console, but at that point, what's the next big thing coming around? And I don't know what other games were coming out. And
yeah,
I was
it was one of the last
when that game came out. I don't know a lot that was going around the market at the time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep. So looks like their quarterly sales pretty good. Animal Crossing is up to 44.79 million units, which is the best-selling Animal Crossing ever, too. Same with Mario Kart, best-selling Mario Kart of all time. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is up to 33.67 million.
How long has this Mario Kart existed for? I don't think they're going to make another Mario Kart game at this point. They're just going to release new tracks.
This was a Wii U game, so like I don't know that.
Yeah, it's existed for the entire life of this console, plus longer. So I mean,
it's a good point.
I hear those numbers. I'm like,
how do you top? Here's a really good question. How do you top Smash Brothers Ultimate? That game has a massive roster in comparison to any Smash Brothers game.
I don't think you're getting the new Smash game anytime soon. Not until the next console. probably well into the next console's life cycle.
You think that has potential to be ported over since that's an original Switch game?
I think it's a guarantee, or they don't plan on making another game anytime soon, and it's going to be ported regardless.
I mean,
I don't know.
The developer, I believe he said that was his last, or not the developer, but the creator. Gosh, I can't think of his name. Who's the Smash Bros. Creator? I
I
believe
know
he
I
said
can
he's
see
not
his
doing
face,
it
but I
anymore.
can't think of his name.
That was his
Yeah, but-
last one that he's involved with.
That's not his. It's not his call whether or not there's another game. That's going to be Nintendo.
No,
We want another
no.
game. You're going to make it instead.
Sakurai, I should have known that. But yeah, he had said that this is the last one he's involved with. Obviously they're going to
Yeah.
make Smash Brothers probably forever.
I mean, I don't know where you go or what you do that's different at this point.
Yeah, I don't know either. Like it's the install base is crazy, the character roster and playing fields are crazy. Like everything about that game. Like it gets consistent updates and new spirits and things to it.
I think there's a chance where it becomes that whole game as a service type thing where it's like, we're just going to port this game to the new console and just continue to support this. Kind of like what it feels like what they're doing with Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Why make a brand new game from scratch and we can just add new tracks over time? We only have to develop new tracks and then port the game over to whatever the next console is going to be, essentially.
Yeah.
For the games like those, for a business that does make sense, why build something new from the ground up when we can just add to something that already exists and just make minor tweaks as we need to?
It does make sense because like they're not, when's it been since they've innovated on, Mario Kart in general? Maybe 7
Since
with
what?
the
Yeah, I think 7
gliders.
Yeah, that's the last one, really.
That did anything new, like in Double Dash brought something new with the 2
But
card
to be fair,
and-
like they never really need to massively innovate on it. We just want new, fun, entertaining tracks.
that's true.
Because when you look
that's
at the
true.
old games, what do you think about the most? You think about the tracks. Yeah, some of the vehicles, like the motorcycles, were cool. But when I think of the Wii version, I think of some of like the tracks themselves, not the carts, not who I could play as. And if you could bring those back on a game that I already have, and it cost me what, $10 for 8 new tracks every year or something like that. Like I think it's a fair trade off.
Yeah, it's
If
funny.
they make a brand new game, what, I'm gonna lose all these tracks. I'm just gonna have the new ones, maybe a handful of old ones, and I have to
Yeah.
wait forever for them to redevelop new tracks.
Yeah, I did this short. It was supposed to be funny, and I put on there, which I actually don't think this. My favorite, I think, is DS for sure. But I put on there that Mario Kart 64 is the best Mario Kart, and a lot of people said, yeah, it was. So for some reason,
It
it
has
took off.
nostalgia.
It took off this week. It's got over 50,000 views. So people were all over it, commenting like there was a bunch I had to get to today. So it's like going crazy, and most people say Double Dash.
It's underrated. It's one of the few Mario Kart games I never actually owned, but I
You
think
played
it
it
got
at
a
my
lot of-
house, right? We played.
Yeah,
it
it got a lot of
quite bit.
undue hate. It was a really unique, interesting idea.
I dug
That
it.
would be nice
I
for
dug
them to
it.
bring back, but I don't know how you implement that into Mario Kart 8.
Yeah, it's like some of those series. It's like, what the heck do you do now to change the game? And like that, argument can be there for people when they
Well-
aren't a fan and look at like Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Like, this is just more of the 2D that we've gotten, which I don't agree with. But like, how much do you innovate on these series? Like moving forward, how do you change these series enough to make them different? Or do they even need to with any of them? Like change
I
anything?
don't think they
at
need
all?
to. Just new and maybe a 1 or 2 new things that kind of spice up the gameplay itself. But people play 2D Mario just because the core concept is just fun, entertaining, and it can be challenging. Like
Yeah.
I could go back and play Super Mario 3 or Super Mario 1. They're old games, but they can be challenging, and it's just like if you want to play a platformer, they perfected the platformer, 2 decades ago.
Yeah,
like,
they did.
You don't need
Yep.
to do a whole lot. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just don't make it the exact same game. 1 or 2 new things here, something like that, and just a small tweak. Like I think the last major tweak they had as far as kind of 2D Mario is when they introduced the multiplayer aspect to 2D. Like,
Yeah.
you didn't need to do a whole lot to really make it an entertaining game. Like,
R-
yeah,
right.
not every game's gonna be this amazing thing, but if you just want to play a 2D platformer, Mario does it and does it well every time.
Well, see, like there was a lot of conversation that when the rumor was around that 2D Mario was coming, people were sick and tired of the new Super Mario Brothers series, as was I, because we got 4 of them, and like realistically, now a lot of people didn't play 2 on the 3DS. I did. It was different. It had this weird coin aspect to it where you collected all these coins and build up trying to get 1,000,000, and like that was the end goal. Like if you wanted to 100% the game, you had to get 1,000,000 coins, and a lot of people hated on it, but people were tired of. By the time we got New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe on the Switch, like it was the same. If you go back and look at the original, they were like they were the same. New Super Mario Brothers on the DS, it just looked better, and yes, it had new power ups and all that. But if you look at like the history of Super Mario Brothers before new Super Mario Brothers 2D wise, they were all so different. Like 3 was a whole different game than 1, and 2 was like its own weird, quirky game that wasn't even a Mario game. So
I'm like, yeah, you need to kind of spice it up. But I think the other problem that I saw with the new Super Mario's was just too many games too quickly. Like, take 4 years between games.
Yeah.
That way, you're not burning out on new ideas immediately, and you're giving people time to play a game. And it's by the time you're like, instead of getting sick of them or it's like you're not doing anything new, it's like, oh, when's the next game gonna come out or something like that? To where you're not just like dumping a new game every year, every 2 years, where it's like you're getting so many of them that the differences become minuscule because you can't just dump all your ideas in this new game and now we gotta think of something new 2 years from now or something like that. I think there's a balance. I think if you gave more time between games and don't use the same title, it gives time to breathe life into a series. It gives you time to develop and to think of something that could spice up the series.
One thing I remember the date and everything, but the original New Super Mario Brothers, when that came out in 2005, that was a massive deal that we were getting another 2D Mario, and they were remaking the first one. Like it was such a big deal. And that one, like, they did introduce, like, some new things to it, too, with Giant Mario. You got that's where the giant mushroom was introduced. And you just smash through, the levels. And like, it was a massive deal at the time. But I think by the time that Wii came out, because Wii was the second one, and then 2, New Super Mario Bros. 2 was on the 3DS. I don't know what the naming scheme with them, but by the time that came out, that was unique because it introduced the multiplayer with 4 people on the screen. But then a lot of people hate 2 and like don't like the coin thing. And U was just like basically Wii with some new power-ups. And like people kind of hated the multiplayer after a while because like it was, if you were playing to like try to get through the levels, it was very hard. People bouncing on each other. 4 players like that on a 2D plane on one screen, like it was. I mean,
it does something new and it spiced up the game a little bit. But obviously, if you want to be able to play through a game, single player, then kind of do that. But I think of one of the series that kind of popped in my mind that I feel like did it right and kind of took its time was the Yoshi games with the Yoshi Island.
Yeah.
The original, the one on the DS, which added more multiple players, and it kind of transitioned to Yoshi's Woolly World, where they've kind of taken their time. They don't feel samey. They don't feel like you're rehashing. It's just new ideas every handful of years that we make a new game, and I think it's felt every game in that series has felt kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I have the one on the Switch that came out where it's the like this one's like a weird style where they had like obviously the yarn Yoshi, but this Yoshi is like
it's the Woolly World Yoshi.
Is that games. The Switch one?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's a new or a ported version, but that's the same type of game.
Yeah, it's the same sort of game. I'm gonna check it, but yeah,
but they've always.
I felt like that was like the least innovative though. The game is good, but the problem with it is it is super short, way too easy, and it just doesn't.
That's like every outside of the Yoshi's Island on the SNES, they've all been short. Like you go back and play Yoshi's Story
Crafted World
on the 64. You can beat that game in like an hour. Like it's
not
I know.
Long, I haven't gone back and played. It's but, you're right. You're right.
I think a short, easy game to play isn't always the worst thing, especially It's like obviously these games are probably geared towards more a younger audience, but that's not a bad thing to have a short, easy game. Because sometimes like I don't want to spend 10, 12, 20 hours trying to beat a single game, especially platformers. It can get redundant after a while, repetitive.
My problem with it was at $60. It was like a 4-hour game.
No, fair enough. Maybe it was like $40. It would make more sense.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, the one thing that I liked is they kind of kept the same aesthetic through, like, as far as like the Yoshi Island type games. They have a lot of the same aesthetic. As like this is like a cardboard type world.
Right? Yeah.
Where even with the Yoshi stories, it feels like this is something like that was built like in a kitchen or something like that, or like in a kid's room. I do like that they have maintained that aesthetic throughout all the games.
Doing something unique, yeah, that's like different. I like that too. And then I mean, like if you like Kirby, for instance, those are always very short, easy games as well. So like, the same could be said for like the $60.
Yeah, not every game needs to be 20 hours long.
Give me just a sec. Talk to them real quick about. I think we got some comments in the chat. Give me just a sec. Grab something.
Okay, trying to go. So I haven't done this in forever. Hey, what's up? Escalated. Friend. Oh yeah, I can't speak. Yeah, Yoshi's Island, the original one's definitely one of my more favorite. Probably at the very least, if not my favorite all time, it's in my top 5. But some of that's the nostalgia. And when I think of Mario, that's a kind of a hard one because I have a nostalgia for the Mario All-Star on the SNES that kind of remade all the original games. And I do like 3 is probably one of my favorite platformers. I was trying to think some of the other games. As far as I think Mario 3 for me would be like my favorite one. But there's a lot of nostalgia that goes with that. Hey, welcome back.
Hey, so what were we talking about there?
I was just this escalated friend was asking like the favorite Mario game and stuff like that, and me personally, I think Mario 3, as far as the Mario All-Star Collection, is probably like my favorite Mario game.
Yeah, I like All-Stars.
There's a lot of nostalgia baked into that, but
yeah, All-Stars is really good. They brought it to the Wii on like a really cool anniversary package, which I
never played it. I remember it's the same.
It's the same game. It's the I mean, it's literally a direct port. They did nothing to it other than, I guess technically upscaling it, but
because I played the original 3 and then the All-Star 3, and I'm like, I just prefer the All-Star 3. It just adds a little bit more color, some background.
It's good.
It just looks better.
It's good. Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan myself. All 3 of the remakes on that are really good. So that's a good collection of games that I feel like they don't talk about that much. So
they're old. They're the original, but I think they just really knocked. As far as platformers, it's basic, but it's good.
Yeah, I'm a fan. Another thing I was going to bring up here, it's kind of funny. So this is today as well. Florida Joker abandons GTA 6 lawsuit, but he still wants a voiceover role in the game.
Yeah, that wasn't gonna go anywhere.
Have you seen about this stuff?
Yeah, I saw it when I was like, that's stupid. I'm like, they're obviously referencing you, but there's enough of a difference to where legally you're gonna lose.
How could you imagine just being referenced in a GTA game though, and you're like a nobody?
I'd just be like, that's dope.
Yeah, that's my thought. I was like, hey man, I'm in a game that is going to be one of the biggest selling games of all time. GTA 5 is massive. GTA 6, I think, with the install base for that series, just going to blow GTA 5 out of the water over time. And I think they've got a long-term plan with GTA Online it's just gonna sell gangbusters. But yeah, that's stupid. That's stupid. I want a voiceover role. Like, dude, you're like in a video game for the rest of your life. Like, come on now, man.
Like, just take it for what it is.
Yeah, and then I did see that Suicide Squad is getting its season 1 content. I don't know if anybody cares, but it is continuing like the actual plot of the game as well. Like they're going to continue the story. So not just like the live service, multiplayer
Yeah.
stuff. So that is interesting, and I feel like again, I feel like I've been saying this since we started the podcast. It's going to be a game that is going to probably get better over time, probably get a lot of improvements. It's a live service, so they're like, yeah, nothing at launch. It runs like crap, looks like crap, but it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And it'll probably be one of those, with like, I feel like every live service game, like, obviously
I
like
hate 'em.
Destiny was like that, Anthem, what else is live service? I mean, even Fortnite, like when that started, like there was no content at all, and it was not even originally a battle royale game. So
Yeah, that came about, and they dumped the original idea.
yeah, they did. They just dumped it.
They just dumped it. Oh, we're still making it. Nah, we're just gonna dump it. I
Yeah.
did see something. It was kind of small, but apparently, Kodokawa bought the developer that made Octopath Traveler.
Oh, really?
So essentially, the same parent company that owns From Software now owns Octopath Traveler, which means we're getting in. I don't know, I'll talk to myself. I'm hoping we get an Octopath Traveler, Dark Souls, merger, just brutally difficult.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
No, I was kind of saying like, all right, so now I'm waiting for that Octopath Dark Souls crossover.
You think it'll happen?
Octopath to just be brutally difficult.
Oh god, I hope not. Then count me out because I am terrible at those games. Did you play Octopath Traveler 2? I have it, but I
played the
haven't
first
played.
one, but I played like 2 hours of it. It's
Oh,
a
man,
good
I
game.
love
It's
the
just,
first
there's
game.
a lot of other. I don't. It's a big time sink for me, and there's other games I want to play first. So
I feel it. Yeah,
I'm glad that style of game is popular.
Me too, because I mean, like nobody cared. Nobody cared anymore about turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
And like it has a really beautiful art style. Like it was a unique looking game. Now there's several games that look like it, but it was unique. Like it was cool, and I feel like it kind of reintroduced turn-based RPGs to because it sold well. Like it was a good game for what
Yeah.
it was. And it was on, it got 10 out of 10s, 9 out of 10s, so
A good
It's-
story-based game. Like turn-based, when done right, turn-based combat is not the worst thing. It's when it becomes repetitive and you get bogged down in like some of those old turn-based games where it's like
yeah.
that all you're spending is in that turn-based. If the fights take too long, then it kind of feels like it's kind of the pace is slowing
Yeah.
down way too much.
I like Pokemon did turn-based right, and that like a lot of those battles are pretty quick, or if
Yeah.
you're in something super intense, it's a long one, but
But
that's
they're
that's the
kinda
way to do it.
But there was also simplicity, like certain styles, certain attacks. But at least when you're playing the computer, or even when you're playing with other people, like the battles don't stay way too long.
That's true. We've
And there's
also
other stuff to do in the game that's not just the battle itself. I think kind of help those games as well.
yeah, the extra stuff to do is a big deal, I think, as well. Like at Pokemon, there's just so much you can do in those games, and like you're kind of focused all around. Like I level up these Pokemon, and like I want to also evolve them, but also hey, I'm trying to get all the badges so I can get to the Elite Four. But hey,
Yeah.
these all these side things to do. But
if you want to,
yeah,
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Take-Two also announces a significant cost reduction, but says it's not layoffs. So they announced that they assured the public that they won't be laying off employees for now. But the news
2 days later, they're laying off employees.
exactly. They said we are currently working on a significant cost reduction program across our entire business to
Which means they're gonna
maximize to maximize
Layoffs are coming. There's no other way you're going to cut costs.
Yeah, basically this is all PR speak saying that they're trying
Yeah,
to achieve
they're
greater
gonna-
leverage as we roll out our release schedule. So yeah, you're right.
I'm not buying the BS. The only way you're going to cut that significant cost is if you cut jobs, and it's happened across the industry wide in gaming and IT. Yeah, how many times have they said we're not going to cut jobs within the next week or two? Oh, we're laying off like 1,000 people or something like that.
I 100% believe that they're going to do layoffs because every time a company says that they're doing something like this, that's what it leads to. It leads
or
to
that
layoffs.
we looked into it, but we determined we have to lay people off. It's the only way to cut the money that we need to cut.
Bungie did the same thing. They were trying to reduce costs, said they weren't laying people off, and then look, the start of the
It's a
year,
code
Bungie
that-
layoffs.
at this point, like, why even say anything? You say that, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're laying people off. It's just a matter of time."
That's a good question. Why would you say this unless you do plan to lay people off? You know what I
but
mean? Like, this is
that's not for the general public. That's for either the employees, but more importantly, that's for investors. That's corporate speak to investors.
yeah.
You and me at the end of the day, that impacts us like not at all. Like, I don't really care. Like, if I'm gonna be real, like, it doesn't affect me at all about when a company lays people off because I'm not in the industry. That affects the people that are getting laid off, and that's affecting like, hey, investors, we're trying to save money. We don't want you to go away or something like that.
Yeah, it's the other thing is like they usually do that at investor meetings, and a lot of that does come out, but a lot of it is also behind closed doors. So it's like I don't know, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it's an investor thing. It's probably prepping the employees. Like, hey, I should probably
Hey,
start
cost
looking
cutting's
for
coming
another
down.
job.
You're like, crap, am I gonna lose my job? Well, I better start, figuring something out. The problem is you just don't know how long it's gonna be, but
It could be
I
weeks.
would say within a month you're gonna probably hear about layoffs. If they
agree.
don't, I would be surprised.
I 100% agree. So that's crazy because they're a big developer, um, kind of a big deal. But yeah, I mean, people losing their jobs, like it sucks. Like it doesn't affect us directly, but it affects other people, and it's like it's a crappy situation all around. And like
Yeah.
these companies, they're just out for money. So I mean that's their business. So if they're not making enough money and can't justify the people, like it happens in every industry. But I think that we are coming to what could potentially be like a semi video game crash too, where I mean you're just seeing it, the layoffs this year. It's only the ninth, man. We've reported on layoffs every single podcast.
But to be fair, I mean that's hitting the whole IT industry as a whole. But to be fair, like, you had to know this was coming with how many crap games they kept pumping out that were like, this is not a good game, or it's like, this is not what
Live
we wanted.
service.
The games that people aren't buying. It's like the AAA industry probably needs to have a crash of some sort because it's just boring, repetitive, same game after same game. And it's like, or you look at what we talked about last week, the Suicide Squad game. It's like, this is just nobody wanted this game. Like, who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah. No, it's so true. Banking all your money on these games that they have no idea is gonna do well, or even worse, that they think for sure, oh, this is gonna be a massive seller. Like this is part of the Arkham series. So this is gonna sell gangbusters like the other ones. And like realistically, no, it's not. If your game is crap and if your game gets delayed 3, 4, 5 times, then
It's not a
people
good
know
sign.
it's not a good sign. People know. People know at this point. It's been going on for so long. People
Or it's
are
like,
aware.
maybe you put out a good game, then you put a bad one. Like, okay, that game still sold well because people bought into it, but after a while, people become hesitant to buy a game. It's like, well, they put out some bad or mediocre games. I'm gonna wait and see what the game actually looks like when people review it. And then when you hear it's not a good game, it's like, oh, I'm just not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna look at it. I'm just gonna ignore it, pretty much.
I mean, from the first presentation when that game got announced and shown, like already right then, people were not on board. It got so many dislikes on the original trailer for it. It got downvoted on Reddit. Like it was, people were not buying it. They were not into
And
it.
I think it shows that the AAA industry could be good because Baldur's Gate 3 is an amazingly well done game.
Yeah.
But you remember what happened around Baldur's Gate 3 right before and especially after it came out? All of a sudden, all across the me, oh, don't expect this to set a new standard. I'm like, you're just running cover for these industries that don't want to put in the heart and effort into a good game.
Yeah.
Because when you do, it sells extremely well. It reviews
Yep.
extremely well, but you don't want to. You want to put out a bare bones game and then just suck the money out of all your customers.
That's
which is
what
a
they
really
want to do. Yep.
slimy industry, but that's not going to last forever. Yeah, you'll find people that enjoy the game, but as a whole, that's just the industry can't continue to pump out $1 million garbages that lose money or
Yeah.
are barely breaking even.
These companies, at the end of the day, we don't need games that are multi-million-dollar games. Like we don't need those. There's so much bloat in these games that come out, even good games, there's still a lot of bloat. Like there's people like, hey, we don't care that this actor's likeness is in the game, and you paid $800,000 or $1 million to do that. Like we don't care.
I don't care about motion capture. It's not going to affect a game that I buy. You're just wasting money.
Exactly. Like there's this expense that could be dropped down, and it could save these people's jobs, or they're investing millions upon millions of dollars into these games. And like the live service thing, like we talk about all the time, but the model is not sustainable for long term. It's just not. Like there's a couple of games that do it right and do it very well, and obviously like Fortnite, that does it very well, and it does it right. And whether like people like it or not, it does do a live service game right. Like I give it credit. Like I said, I want to check it out again since it's been so long. But
I'm gonna say this: there's only so many customers that have so much money and so much time. Not every game can't be a live service game.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like that's why you look at the MMOs. Like you can't pump out 50 MMOs and expect them all to succeed. No, you're gonna have like maybe 5 do well, and the rest are gonna crash and burn because kind of like a live service game, I'm investing a lot of time and effort into this game. Like I'm not going to do that with every single game. And I was like, well, I've already invested in this game. I'm not wasting my time on you.
The other thing is like these live service games,
oversaturated market.
The ones that launch for $60-$70, like a live service game, it's a game where it's like if you buy it physically, kind of dumb. Like you're not getting anything on the disc, and like it feels weird because most of these games all launch with like minimal content. And you got to buy all your other stuff to, you're buying all the microtransactions from the start because it's a live service. It's the model. And people are seeing through it now. Like people are saying that, oh, like I don't want to invest $300 in this game to look kind of cool and have some weapons.
I can't afford to invest that money based off paycheck. And the cost of just, rent and food is expensive. Like, I don't have as much money to throw at these games for you to continue just to take advantage of me.
That's the other big thing. That's a good point. I think
that plays into it.
You're right. I think it does too. The cost of everything, I think that does play into it. That's another good point. So people just don't have the money. And the thing is with these games, the cost that they spend on the live service, usually they're not making their money back until they make the other sales. Right? Like the base game usually is not paying for these games. That's why these closures and things are happening. They don't make the money back unless they sell all this microtransaction stuff that they want to sell that people just can't afford now. They just want to buy a game, be able to play the game, and that's it. They don't want to buy all this extra stuff. And
there's already so many games that exist.
There's like too many.
If you're on PC on Steam, it's like I don't need to buy new games. Like I'll find a single player game, but it's not going to be a game that you made.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a cheaper game that I bought on sale. Might be 5-10 years old, but it's far more enjoyable, and the developer actually cared to put a heart and a soul into the game, not just to steal my wallet and steal my money.
And that's one of the other things too. I think is that like a lot of people nowadays, because they can't afford it, are not buying these games until there's a sale. And so when somebody buys the game at $20 that they were already losing money on, buying it at 70, they weren't going to make their money back from you.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, right? Like they're not even making their base game price. It's not a sustainable model. Like they're not looking at the future. And if they had, Sony was essentially going full force. That was their plan. They announced it in 2020 that they're going, we're going to make a bunch of live service games. And now look, the model has flopped and is failing and is making these studios close. And it's like, you should never put all your eggs in one basket, and you should never spend that much money on a game because there are very few games that it matters.
Oh yeah, because it's doing really well there. I'm like, yeah, it's doing well there, but like, not every game can't do this. It's unsustainable. It's not enough people and/or money. Like if I'm like, I play one MMO, and it might as well be the only live service game that I play, and that's like the only one I play, and it's I'm like, I don't. Maybe you want to call Rocket League a live service game, but I bought the game and that's it. I don't need to buy any other content. Like I just play the game.
Yeah, we don't like people like us usually don't care about what the vehicle looks like or getting the newest skin for. I mean, it's just stupid. I think
most people are only gonna play one live service game because of the time investment or the cost or something like that. They're only gonna play one game. They're not gonna play 10 live service games.
Right. Yep. And I mean, like, a lot of them have flopped. Like in the first year or two, like Godfall, it closed down within a year of coming out
because they couldn't get close to making their money back. And it was a bad game.
It was a bad game. And Anthem was another big one where it was like I forget the number that was put into that development, but it was massive. They sunk money into that game.
They were never going to make the money back.
It flopped so hard, man. It's
the game was soulless. I saw some of the live streams. Like, there's not a heart here. This game was just designed to make money, and that was it. That's part of the reason why it flopped. If there's no heart and soul and enjoyment into the game, people aren't going to buy or keep playing your game.
Yep. I played Anthem probably 6 months after it came out. I bought it on sale. I was not going to buy it full price at a live service game. I probably never will. It's got to be something I'm really excited for to ever pay full price for a live service. But anyway, I played it 6 months after it came out and still sucked. So, I wasn't a fan. But we also got Marvel Spider-Man 2 update with New Game Plus launches in March. Studio said on Twitter that it would reveal a more complete list of changes and new features coming with the update as March 7th gets closer. The update was initially set to come out in 2023 back in December, but they announced they delayed it to early 2024. So they set a date, March 7th, adds New Game Plus, and they'll tell us what else it adds later. So,
did we talk about? Because I'm sorry, this is completely unrelated, but you mentioned the New Game Plus. Did we talk about the Like a Dragon New Game Plus crap last week?
No, what happened with that? I don't think I even saw that.
The New Game Plus is essentially like it's a DLC essentially.
Ugh. Stupid. That's so stupid, and for like a good game too.
Yeah, it's like sucks. We want an extra $15 out of you. Most people don't play New Game Plus to begin with. Like, let's be real.
I'd never have. I've never played a New Game Plus.
It's just replaying the game again, maybe a little bit harder with all your gear back. Like, that's all really a New Game Plus is. And most games that I play, I don't really care to. Like, I just play the game.
There's too many games, man, for me to play the game again right after with like minimal changes. Like, no thanks. But they are adding that mode. This is a free update, I believe, and it looks like
should be free.
It should be, yeah. And it looks like they are adding other content that's unannounced. So it's a good game. I was a little underwhelmed with it just because of how good the other two were, but it felt like more of the game, and for some reason the combat, although it was supposed to be much better to me, it felt kind of soulless. Like, it just didn't feel as good as like Miles Morales or the first one to me.
Yeah.
But it's by no means a bad game. I also don't think it did as well as like Sony expected, because it's not sold like crazy well, and it's not like a massive upgrade to it, like other than the story. Like, it doesn't feel like a big shift from the last one, which, like, Miles Morales came out in PS4 as well, so it was developed for PS4 and just launched with PS5 as well. So we hadn't seen, like an actual PS5 exclusive for the Spider-Man series until this. So it just didn't feel like a massive upgrade to me, but it is interesting. So have you played that?
I haven't played the Miles Morales. I have it, but I haven't played it.
That one's really
I bought
good.
it when I bought my PS5, and it's been on my shelf for years now.
It's good. It's worth playing. I like it, and it's short. It's not long. When I say short, like 10 hours you can beat it.
I bought Godfall, and I've never played it.
You're out of luck now. You're out of luck on that one.
It's just a piece of plastic.
Why the heck would you buy that? That's like the Overwatch 1. Like, GameStops are throwing it away. You can't do anything with the disc either.
I bought it at launch. It was one of the games I just got at launch because like I didn't have any games. But
I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I bought Anthem, but I also only paid like $15 for it. So
yeah, I paid full price for all those games.
No thanks, not for me. Are you into any sports games anymore, like at all, or
Rocket League? And then probably once the new NCAA football game comes out, I'll get that. But
I think I'm.
Other than that, I'm not really into sports.
Yeah, I'm not really either.
But if I buy that, it means I'm gonna buy that game and not buy another one for 10 years. Because why buy a new game every year?
Yeah, that's true. Have you ever played the Nier games?
I have both of them. but I've only ever actually played Nier Automata. I've got the
Automata's
original,
good.
the remaster. I've just never gotten around to actually playing it. Nier Automata is a really good game.
A very good game. This says the new Nier game is reportedly canceled. They couldn't find a good monetization strategy for the game, apparently. So, and then
you just sell the game. Like, what are you talking about monetization strategy?
I have no idea. It says making a new Nier game at Square Enix stopped development in December. It was reportedly a mobile game. Oh, I didn't know that part. That was in the works for nearly 2 years. It was going to play directly into the story. It was going to be a full game. So I don't.
Yeah, that's good. The question is, how much involvement did Yoko Taro actually have in that game?
It's a good question. It says it's a legit game, full game. I mean, it's not anymore because it's not.
I'm glad it was. I'm glad it failed just outright. I don't like mobile games, and it was nothing. Guaranteed nothing but a cash grab.
Did you know this? One of Tencent's other projects is reportedly a mobile version of Elden Ring that's trying to emulate Genshin Impact's free-to-play model. It's Tencent, so of course.
I don't know how that works with Elden Ring.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I'd like to hear more about that because I wasn't aware of that. But it completely owns. I didn't know Tencent owns Riot Games and has a 40% stake in Epic Games. I'm not surprised on the Epic Games thing, but I didn't know the Riot Games. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, look, you cannot blame because mobile gaming is bigger than console gaming. It sells more. That's
only
just
because everybody has a cell phone, and it's riddled with microtransactions that people don't understand what they're actually doing. I'm criticize it if you want. Mobile gaming isn't gaming, and that's a bridge I will die on. It's not gaming.
That's a hot take, but I think that most people that watch podcasts probably agree. But
well, because every single mobile game you've ever had is trying to sell you something constantly. That's not a game.
I mean, even Nintendo did it. Super Mario Run, you could play through the first 3 levels, and you had to buy the rest. The thing that they did right with that game is that it was one purchase at, I think it was either $9.99 or $19.99, but it was like a full game, and you bought the game.
It was a boring game. I hated it.
It was not great.
The same thing with the mobile Mario Kart. I'm like, this is such a boring, terrible game.
Yeah,
both those games I dropped within a week of getting.
I mean, they still support the Mario Kart game, but the Dr. Mario game that they came out with, that's been shut down already for I think like 2 years. Like it was around for like 2 years.
Those games largely failed, especially when you already have a Switch, a mobile gaming platform. It's like, well,
right. I mean, I can't do it.
They weren't fun games.
Yeah,
I didn't like them.
I'm not a fan of mobile in general, but I did try every single Nintendo released mobile game. But I largely agree that Mario Kart was just like not great. Although it's got a fan base, like there's a lot of players, and that's why it's still supported.
After playing that Mario Kart game, I was like, all right, yeah, sorry Nintendo, I'm never gonna play a mobile game of yours again. These are just they're absolute dog shit games. There's no better way to say it. They're terrible.
They did suck me into Animal Crossing Pocket Camp though. I did play that, but I never spent a penny on it. And like that game you could play just fine without spending any money. So they got me into that, and that was the last mobile game that I got into. I can't think of anything before that I played like really got into on mobile. That was it. That's the only one I can think of. Like I've tried a lot of them. Like I did the last Sonic game, and that was like a legit game. Why they put it on Apple Arcade exclusive? It's probably just because Apple backed it.
Probably.
But it is a good game, and Apple Arcade like is a one. You pay for it every month. You get all these games, whatever.
To be fair, I only have Apple Arcade for one game, and that's a Taiko no Tatsu game, the Taiko drum game.
There's a mobile game.
Yeah, and it gets regular updates as far as like weekly or monthly updates for the game, but it's just the Taiko drum on your phone.
Interesting. Is there a? Can you use the actual Taiko drum for it?
No,
like
it's
a Bluetooth?
It's all touchscreen.
Oh, that's
But it's
interesting.
a fun game. It's like I'll play a game or two here or there if I've got time.
I like Taiko a lot. I
I'm
bought the
not great
last
at rhythm
one.
games, but they're just fun, mindless games. I just play on the normal mode because that's really all I can do. And there's some good songs on there.
Did you get the one that came out last year on Switch? It's pretty good.
Thanks. I think I got most, if not all, the Taiko drums on the Switch. I haven't played them in a while.
Gotcha. I was looking on here at the mobile one. I wasn't aware of that.
Like they're fun games. It's just I will never put enough time into it to ever get really good at those games.
Yeah. I'm not good at them either, but they're fun. Like I'm not good at
I can
any
play the
rhythm
normal
game.
mode just fine. It's just the harder difficulties. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? I play it. It's a rhythm game. I like them. I generally, obviously, you play them because you like the songs. I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's something different.
Yeah, they're cool. I like them. I think having all those Japanese songs too are just cool.
There's also a lot going on screen. If you're like not paying attention to the bar, there's a lot going on screen on those games.
There is. It gets crazy. Like that's why I'm not good at them.
When I was in Okinawa, I was able to play it. That game plays the best, the arcade version. If you actually play the actual Japanese game in the arcade, that's where it plays the best.
I played.
Oh, it's such a fun game.
I got to play it again last year, actually. There was one at Cleveland Gaming Classic at a convention, so I brought one. So
yeah,
they're fun, man. They're really, really fun. You got to play one in Japan too, right?
Yeah, before I think the arcade still exists, but I think when I left is they were rebranding it. It was no longer Sega Arcade, but the arcade wasn't actually shutting down. It was just rebranding to something else.
Yeah,
that was around the time the Sega Arcade crap was going on.
I remember that. Yeah, interesting.
At least I would hope it's still there. There was always people inside when I went there.
Yeah, I mean,
half of the arcade was just claw game.
It was what?
So, half or like a third of the arcade was just like claw type games. The Japanese version of those claw games.
Gotcha games.
If that's what you want to call it, yeah.
I
mean, you can win at those games, and there are some neat things I've seen people win, like some really nice, like nice stuff.
You can do that here. You can win Switches and your Walmart and the claw machine.
I don't think my Walmart has a claw machine.
The Circleville one does. It still has.
But I mean, that's where
some arcade
I don't
games.
have it. I don't have it at the office, but I got one of like a small little Pokemon plushie that I won at one of those things.
Oh, nice.
I think I got it. I think it's at my office. I think it's a Squirtle or Bulbasaur or one of those two. I spent maybe 5,000 yen to get it. They're not 5,500 yen, I think.
What's that can convert to?
Probably maybe $5, depending on the conversion rate. I would always round down, but on average, at least when I was there, I don't know what it is right now. On average, when I was there, somewhere between 110 to 115 yen was about $1. So about 100 yen is about $1, give or take, the conversion rate. If you're spending less than $50, that's close enough conversion.
Huh. So I was
when you're there all the time, you kind of have to get used to it.
Right. Yeah. I was gonna mention too. I forgot this one earlier. Hideo Kojima's documentary called Connecting Worlds debuts on Disney Plus on February 23rd. So that's at the end of the month. It is a worldwide premiere, and so it'll talk about essentially everything that he's done. And I think it'll touch on the new game as well. But I'm gonna watch that. I'll watch that to talk about on the podcast because he's an interesting character, and he's put out a lot of games that I've absolutely loved, but also has changed whatever the heck is. I don't know what's going on in the past few years with some of the things that he's came out with, but there is a definitely a market for like Death Stranding. I know people that like it. It wasn't for me, but just because of his history and like his impact on the gaming industry, like I'll watch it, check it out. It'll be on Disney Plus, so like most people have access to that. But yeah. So that's cool. 23rd of this month, so be on the lookout for that. Is that something you'll check out? You think?
Probably not. If it's on Disney Plus. I mean, I just canned my Netflix and Hulu subscriptions.
I only have it because it comes with my my. It's like it was free when I got my phone or whatever for several years.
Oh
so
yeah.
I got it. I
Nah.
don't pay for it. So
I don't. If anything, I'm on YouTube more than anything else. So
Me
the
too.
YouTube Premium is worth it, especially since I use it on my phone. I don't have ads and I can play it in the background. But if anything else, like I rather buy either physical media or I'm just gonna sail the high seas if I really want something and I don't want to. It's stuck. Though there's a lot of movies I want to watch that aren't ever on streaming services, so it's a nightmare to watch stuff anyways. But
yeah, I get out. Same
it's
with
just
YouTube for me.
when I was digging into my budget, I realized like how much I'm spending on Hulu, Netflix, and I'm like, this is just a waste of money every year. That I'm like, I might not watch. I might go 3 months without ever pulling up like Netflix. I'm like, this is just I'm just sinking money into this.
I
I'm gonna cancel it outright. Like it's a waste of money.
I watched 2 things on streaming last year the entire year. 2 things. That's it. Went to the movie theaters, see the Mario Brothers movie. Went to go see the Barbie movie for my daughter. Other than that, literally did not watch anything else. YouTube in the background, or I will like actually watch it. But like 75% of the time, it's YouTube in the background because I'm doing other stuff.
Like it was funny. I was at the Best Buy and obviously they're getting rid of like a lot of their DVDs and Blu-rays. I bought I bought like 2 or 3 anime movies and 2 anime series they had there just because like I'm like it's on sale and they're getting rid of it. I'm like, oh screw it, I'll just buy it to buy it.
Yep, that's a good idea.
I prefer physical media on certain things.
Yeah, if I wanted to get video of some of that Best Buy shift to like see, because obviously like I saw pictures of a few others. It's like Bear where they're trying to shift around what they're doing. I just wanted to document that. I wanted to get some video, but I also don't feel like driving 30 minutes to get to a Best Buy just for that.
I used to always have like there used to be like an interesting thing to go to Best Buy. I'm like, there's nothing here. Half of this is just, washer dryer crap anymore. Like, there's no, like, why go to a Best Buy anymore? They don't sell anything interesting.
If I buy from there anyway, it's online and it's literally only because there's a deal that gets tweeted out. That's it.
I think their physical stores become so, like, there's no point to even just
the stores
look
suck
around.
now.
There's nothing here. Like, you might as well just shut down your physical store. There's nothing in here.
I agree with that. There's nothing there. We got Star Wars Outlaws to release before end of year. Ubisoft announced this, I guess, a few days ago. But also Assassin's Creed Codename Red will launch by March 2025. So by then, we're looking at basically a year or less, according to them. But this is like an actual statement. This isn't a rumor. But Star Wars Outlaws is... it's got pretty mixed views. I don't think it looks good, personally.
I haven't seen anything about it, so I can't really say.
You should look it up because it's I used to be such a big Star Wars fan, and like I still am, but they've really dragged that property through the mud where I'm like almost like I won't wear my t-shirts with Star Wars sometimes. I'm like, I don't like the brand is so tarnished. Like I loved Star Wars, and it sucks because like the only things that I'll go back to watch are the original trilogy, and like I out of the prequel trilogy, the only one I legitimately even semi liked was the 3rd movie, and Star Wars has gotten tarnished for me. But there's been so many Star Wars games too that like I bought the PSVR 2 Star Wars game, and
is it worth it?
Not really, no. Like it's not very good, man. Like it's okay, like it's unique. It's not unique, but it's like it's cool, like sort of experience. But it's one of those things like you play it once or twice and like you're good. Like the whole mystique of it and everything, the way it feels, just kind of wears off pretty quickly. And like PSVR 2 is my first VR ever, and I have barely played it. Like I just
never a reason to. It feels like so much of a gimmick. Like I get bored with it.
It sucks because like I can see where it'll be, and don't get me wrong, like the game's on there, like it's a cool experience. Like I played the Horizon game first because it came with it, and like it's cool. And I still do want to get through that one. I haven't played it in months, but it's interesting because it's actual story for the game, and I like those games. But like. It feels like we need something like super unique on it for it to work the way we have VR now. Like that's a powerful VR headset, but like look, we've already got that launch. I mean that's not old at all. that unit. And I mean, we've already got MetaQuest 3 that's more powerful than it, and MetaQuest Pro, and now the Apple Vision. And like,
I'm just gonna say this until we get some like SAO type, like I'm actually in an actual virtual world. Like I don't think it's ever gonna really become mainstream type thing.
I don't think so either. And like you said, the Apple Vision thing, I think that's gonna put it to the closest that we might get with it right now. But
it's interesting, but it's like even then, like until you can like just like mentally be in the game and physically, like if I move my arm, the character uses his arm type thing. I'm like, I just don't think it's ever really gonna be anything more than like a niche, expensive accessory to gaming.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might, it could always be niche for a long time. To be honest with you, Edwin's Video Games popped in and said, "Yo, T-Mobile has a deal where Netflix and Hulu are free. So if you got T-Mobile, that's pretty cool."
I got Verizon. There's a T-Mobile that's getting built. No, I think it's an AT&T or something like either a T-Mobile or AT&T that's getting like built next to where I work. But I'm like, I don't use you, so I don't have it. I'm not.
Yeah,
using Verizon. And like I don't. Verizon might be expensive, but it has by far the best coverage, especially out here.
Yeah, I have Verizon as well. It's same deal here. Like Verizon just has the best coverage, and also like the highest.
I'm paying $130 a month for unlimited data and just me on it. But I mean, like, it could be cheaper, but I'm not breaking the bank on it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily cheap, but yeah, I mean, you get I prefer it. That's my thing. We got apparently I didn't see this. We'll be wrapping up here soon, so we'll stop off with this. And any question, we did have a couple community questions, but Switch 2 is getting Persona and more Sega games. Leaker claims. It looks like they said leaks about Persona 3 Reload and claims that Sega plans to release the original game's playable epilogue, The Answer, as DLC. And also looking to bring Jet Set Radio and Crazy Taxi games to Switch as well, which is not something that we knew. It was presented in one of the State of Plays, I think, or
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
I do remember that being announced.
Yeah, so that's interesting. And we'll get to the community questions. We just had a few here. I actually did not. I forgot to go through and grab everything. But the first one that we've got here is about the Xbox, and pulling that up now. And we have Manny's Arcade ask, is now the right time for Sega to introduce a new console to the world, or are we better off without it?
Considering their track record, I'd say we're better off without, but unless like until you get the hard Xbox is not going to exist anymore, I don't think it's worth potentially hopping in, but I don't know. That's a big I don't know if they've got the money to jump back in.
I think it's too much of a risk. I think there's the competition, especially when you bring in the handheld stuff that's like doing really well. I don't know that they could compete with like Nintendo, or which I think would be their prime competition personally. But
to be fair, I don't think anybody's ever going to catch Nintendo in the handheld, even if it's a more powerful console.
They're not. They won't. It doesn't matter if it's
Nintendo has the games, and for everybody else that buys it, it's like, oh yeah, I can take it on the go. But like primarily, it's not gonna be your primary gaming system. So it's like, yeah, it's neat, but like for somebody like me, it's like it's not worth the money or the effort to get that.
Yeah, I agree. And then we also got Getter81 asks, what has made you continue to enjoy games at our late ages, and do you think it's something that you'll continue to do in the next 20, 30 years?
What do you got on that? I'm still young. I don't know what y'all talking about.
Well, I mean, I'm 30. You're 30 too.
I don't look 30. Everybody I've ever talked to double take when I tell them I'm 30.
People said that for me until like 27. I don't know.
The guy I work with like 26, and they're like, "Oh yeah, the older guy," and they're like referring to him. Like I'm always the younger guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna ride this ship as long as I can.
Yeah, so to answer the question, what keeps me around? No, you're good. What keeps me around is I just enjoy it. Like it's my hobby. It's something that's just always kind of been there for me, and it just it's just something I like to to do in my free time. I'm passionate about it. I've been involved with writing or something for it for over 10 years at this point. I just have been super into it forever. It's just got an attachment on me. As far as playing it in the next 20, 30 years, yeah, I mean, I'll definitely see myself still playing at 50. To what degree, I have no idea. Will my eyesight still be working? I don't know. Will I be able to hear? No idea. But we'll see. I mean, I still plan on it. So I plan on sticking around with everything gaming related for a while. So my interest has not dwindled. But
no, yeah, I'd better say for me it's probably fairly similar, but it's a little different because, like, between doing online school and work right now, it's like it just eats up a lot of free time because I don't have a whole lot going on and there's not a lot to do in the middle of Wyoming. But I mean, probably in the future, it'll always be there. But I imagine, eventually it's gonna drop off at one point. Once I decide to finally settle down and do something different with my life.
Yeah,
but it's just a matter of time, and I don't know. Maybe in 10 years, I'm not playing at all because I just don't have time. It's really hard to tell.
I mean, I don't have the time now, so like I don't get to sit down and play anything. I had to force the time in to play the two things that I talked about that were new, to even talk about those. And I mean, like they were both like quickly accessible with Game Pass, and the other was just a demo. So I had to force that in. Time's not there, but I mean, interest is still there, and like who knows what time brings. Like I can't I can't see the future.
It's also why I'm picky on my games. Like I got limited time, so
yeah. I mean it. Yeah, we'll see. Then we also got Luker51 asks, wait, hold on, pull it. Is there something that you would like to see come from Nintendo that has not been around in the mainstream for a while, such as a new series we haven't seen since classic consoles, or something that was supposed to come out at some point and has not? I mean, Metroid Prime 4, but I don't know if that answers the first part of the question.
Man, that's really the only one. There's not a whole other Nintendo games or series that I play that haven't been getting attention that I can think of. I'm like maybe Star Fox, but they always seem to butcher that.
Yeah.
So
F-Zero is one for me. Earthbound. We haven't seen anything.
I've never played an Earthbound game, so I don't really have an input in that.
I feel like you would enjoy Earthbound if you played it. I feel like, honestly, legitimately think that you would really like it. But yeah, I mean, those are on Nintendo Switch Online, so maybe you can check them out. The first one is on there too, Beginnings, which isn't like the one that people rave about. It's like a 8-bit version of the 16-bit game. But yeah, I mean, like F-Zero is one for me. Obviously, Metroid Prime 4 that we do know about. I wouldn't mind seeing like what are the games called? Those flying games. There was one on the 3DS. There was one on Super Nintendo. Oh, Pilot Wings. I'd like to see one of those again. Those were fun. And different.
Probably not going to.
Well, probably not, because I don't know that the 3DS one did well or not, but I wouldn't mind seeing that. There are like quite a few Nintendo franchises that like have not came around or just got one game. Like there was so many Nintendo games on the Famicom that we never even got brought here. Like, yeah, I don't know, but I think those are the big ones for me. F-Zero would be a big one, and for sure Earthbound. So when we got another community questions, check comments. We got Nathaniel, that's all I have for it. Nathaniel asks, do you think that we're going to get any more movie translations of video games in the next 5 years, since we are doing so well with them now? And is there something that you would like to see come out?
I mean, I think it's a guarantee we're going to get more. Whether they're good or bad, they're going to keep coming.
What do you think that we get? That
probably something else from Nintendo. It's just a matter of time at this point.
That yeah, I mean, I could see that, but I wonder what would do well. That's not Mario or Zelda. I mean, we got like the Pokemon, like we got
I think
the
anything that's
Detective
done,
Pikachu.
any Nintendo IP that becomes a movie, if done properly, would do well. Like a Metroid movie would go a long way. Like if done right, it would be a really good, space cowboy type movie.
Yeah, yeah. And what else? Like Nintendo wise, I would love to see like I think a Metroid movie could do really. I don't know that if it could do really well, but I think it could translate to a movie pretty well. Like a
Or tie into a game or something like that.
yeah,
If you really want a Samus origin story, that'd be the way to do it. Outside of, because I think of the original, the canon Sam, or as close to a that's still canon with Samus. It's a mixture of playing the old games, or all the mainline games, as well as reading some of the manga tie-ins to that. Really not easy, really hard. But I started reading into more of like Samus's actual origin story. I'm like, that would just be a good retelling of her origin
I
through
think
a
so.
movie.
I think
Because
so
it was
too.
never actually a part of a game we actually played, but it would expand on like how she got to where she did. Minus the other M if you don't like that story, which I didn't hate. I just thought it was a botched. The way they told it was somewhat botched, but
Yeah, I think it could translate well, and yeah, I mean, like the thing is too with I think it's a little bit easier because like Metroid, the original Metroid, Metroid 2, I feel like did not have like significant story. I feel like Metroid 2
almost
legitimately had more than the NES.
Metroid. The first two games, the story is essentially non-existent. Like, let's
Yeah,
be real.
it's pretty much not there.
Zero Mission gave it somewhat of a story, but it's just a game, or it's
Just a game.
what would become a Metroidvania type game, like
Yeah.
explore the area, kill the bosses type thing.
I agree. There was basically no story there. It was
I mean, a story did exist, but it was either in the manual, or it was like a manga type tie-in to the actual story. So it's like it's not in the game, but there's a story there. You just
there's
have
a
to
lot of that
find
too.
it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that where you just you had no idea what was going on. You had to read the manual to check out the story.
Yeah.
So I mean, same with like the original Zelda, like nothing there, no story. Got to read the manual to find out enemy
save
names.
the princess type thing.
Exactly. And then we did have a few comments before we wrap up. We got Edwin's. He said, y'all don't look 30. Toy Food and Hector said, Mark, hi, I subscribed to you guys the last episode.
Yo, what's up?
We appreciate that. External hard drive gamer says, guys, I got a question. And then asked after somebody, what is your favorite platform from the 32-bit years? I mean, I'm most nostalgic, I guess, for 64. 32-bit. Yeah, 64. Right? What am I missing here?
I'm assuming it's like NES and the SNES area if you're doing 32-bit.
Yeah, what is the... I don't know how to
Any of
that.
the original, like the first 3 Mario games would be platformers.
Those are 8-bit.
On the SNES? The SNES is not an 8-bit.
That's 16-bit.
The 64 is 64-bit.
Yeah, that's why I was getting confused. That's why I was getting confused. 32-bit. I don't know. I'm tired. I can't think. So I'm not sure to answer that one. 32-bit.
Probably one of the Mario. I'm just gonna say Mario. Really broad, just because as far as old platformers go, that's really all I.
Virtual
really
Boy. Virtual Boy is 30. There we go. Virtual Boy.
I never played Virtual Boy, so
it's 32-bit. So we'll roll with that one. We also looks like last questions. Would you guys collect retro? I think they mean, do you guys collect retro games right now?
More you than me.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I haven't been picking them up as much because I'm trying to save up on upgrading equipment, but I mean, I still do mostly use my EverDrives now for all the retro systems. I pretty much got them for almost everything that I have that's not disc based. So, but yeah, I mean, I do. If I find a deal or something, yard sales or whatever, I definitely will. But yeah, any closing thoughts, Mark, on episode 71?
Not really. Just don't forget to tip your waitress.
We do have our
I think it's unprofound.
we do have our Patreon in the description. That does help out a lot, and there's a lot of benefits there. I just essentially relaunched that specifically for the podcast. So there are a lot of cool benefits there if you guys want to check that out. And also give us a follow on all the platforms. We are on everything, and recently have started putting out shorts from these episodes, so it reaches a broader audience. And the first one did really, really well. So we get a lot of hot takes and cool topics, and it's been fun. So we appreciate everybody watching. Episode 71's been great, and of course we will be back next week, same day, same time. We'll see y'all later.